set the interview with many ex-users unable to access it. Showan Brycebees reports.
Musk's allegation of a cyber attack could not be independently confirmed after technical issues also hampered the presidential campaign launch on X of Republican Governor Ron DeSantis in May last year. When the conversation eventually started, Musk asked Trump about the failed assassination attempt. They spoke at length about illegal immigration, with Trump mentioning Africa, Asia, the Middle East and South America as source regions, alleging people coming were released from insane asylums and jails. They also talked about the so-called need for American presidents to be intimidating and feared on the world stage, with Musk suggesting Harris and President Joe Biden were both failures in that regard.
Recapping the top story, the High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear the legal challenge of the former President Jacob Zuma and the Umkhonto we Sizwe Party against the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Two problems we're keeping an eye on around the Durban area. One is the protesting this morning, burning tyres across the N2 between the Higginson Highway and the M4 Southern Freeway. The northbound that was closed earlier appears to be reopened, but the southbound heading down towards the south coast is closed. There's quite a bit of traffic off-ramping up the Higginson Highway and then turning on to Grimsby Road through towards South Coast Road is your alternative route. You could avoid that by taking the M7 Bluff exit off the N2 southbound and routing down and rejoining the M4. There's also some roadworks on the N3 out of Durban. These are new this morning. Traffic restrictions around the M7 highway at Pinetown. If you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, that is slow. And Cape Town, a busy start on the N2 with big volumes coming in from the airport side, being held up by a broken down vehicle by Bunga Avenue. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm sports headlines. Plenty to look forward to as we bring you action from off the field. This time it's Al Ahly and they've got Wydad Casablanca on their heels. They're looking for Percy Tau, targeting our very own Bafana star Percy Tau. And we'll bring you some more news as the Olympics, they've wrapped up, and we'll give you Tebogo Letsiles. He reveals to us his strategy when it came to the 4x400 meter relays. All this and more at around 6:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
Hello! It's 8 minutes past 6. Good morning to you. John Kerrick with you through till 9 o'clock today. This is SAfm Breakfast, the team ready to bring you all of the news and much more over the next 3 hours. Welcome to it. It's good to have you along. It's a busy day, interesting day today, actually. We've got some lovely stories where we're going to learn together with a couple of these stories, especially if you're... do you shop online? We're going to talk about that later on. But first, in our international story, Hamas are urging Gaza mediators to implement a truce plan presented by US President Joe Biden. We're going to find out what that truce plan is and get more information about what is expected and what is currently going on in Gaza. People being moved up and down the territory. They've been told to go here, and then the next day they're told to move north, and then they're told to move south again. People being displaced, tens of thousands of people dying, and we'll get an update of what's happening in Gaza today. In the Eastern Cape, interesting moves in the Eastern Cape about health and a couple of issues we're going to speak about health in the Eastern Cape. First of all, a big increase in teenage pregnancies in the province of the Eastern Cape. We're going to find out what that is. And then there's also something they're calling the repurposing of small hospitals in the province. This is for hospitals with beds of 50 to 100 beds. And we're going to find out what that means. What are they being repurposed from, and what are they being repurposed to, and how will that affect the communities in the Eastern Cape? So a couple of stories we're going to focus on in that province. Our municipal workers are being paid too much. It's kind of the research that's been done. And municipalities are struggling to afford these sky-high salaries. The numbers are huge when you compare it to the private sector for more or less the same kind of jobs. And then unions are fighting hard for increases that are above inflation. 8% at the moment is what they're asking for. That's going to threaten the financial sustainability of municipalities. It's going to affect you and I, because for a municipality to be able to afford the salaries, they've got to increase rates and taxes, which is more that you and I will have to pay. So we will find out what that means with a local government specialist, and first of all, why the people are being paid so much. Second, how they're going to afford it. There's water issues. Can you believe it? There's still water issues in the city of Johannesburg, particularly in Elovo. It's part of the Sandton Reservoir system in Johannesburg, the ongoing water issues there. And we will get an update. Remember, this Rand Water, Joburg Water, they've been working on the water issues and been doing maintenance and changing pipes and upgrading valves and things in Johannesburg. We're going to get an update on what's happening with the water. Why are we still without water weeks later? It seems like weeks later, but it was the beginning of this month, last month, that they were working on the water. So we're going to get an update on that. Speaking of updates, the Riverlands disaster not going away. We're going to find out from a spokesperson for the Swartland municipality what the latest is. They've been looking at that fourth wall of the dam. They say that wall is fine. Also, I think the school is opening tomorrow. The health services are opening today. Very fast turnaround for the Swartland municipality. But we're also going to find out. I don't want to call it, can we call it the blame game? The blame game has begun. It's not our walls, it's not their damn walls, it's not ours, it's somebody else's. They should have looked after the walls. But we're going to get an update for the folks down there in the Swartland municipality. That was those dam walls that broke after the rains, and I think there's more rain coming to the Western Cape as well, so we'll see what that means. You heard in the news about the electricity. There's some words I've written down here. There's Eskom's creating too much power, but there is load reduction, and the minister's saying that load shedding's not gone away yet. It's all very confusing. Also, our focus is going to be on these households that qualify for free electricity, but are not getting it. 8 million households across the country qualify. They're eligible for free basic electricity, but they're not getting it. 10 million households qualify, only 2 million are benefiting. So we're going to find out the solution to that. How do we get people to get the free electricity that they are allowed? Science and innovation is going to change the way we look at life. And we're told this all the time. There's numerous challenges we face. Climate change, disease, poverty, malnutrition, negative impacts felt from developing countries. Science and innovation can change that, but not just science for science sake. It's getting young kids to see science as more than just something that's written in a textbook. And if you teach kids from early on about how science and technology can change their lives, then that will affect and it'll work its way up. And it's not just the rich kids that need to be taught science. It needs to be taught across the board. We're going to find out how to do that with a senior postdoctoral research fellow at the Future Africa at the University of Pretoria. I'm excited about that conversation. And then, have you been shopping online? If you have been shopping online, you will know something, because I didn't, something called the buy box. And there are skelms that are using this buy box to sell inferior products, but you and I think that they are the real products. And we will talk to the editor of My Broadband, Jan Vermeulen, who's been keeping a close eye on this. There's been television programs about this as well, about counterfeit products that are being sold on their platforms as genuine products, and what the implications for that are, and how you and I can avoid this. We've got to be very careful with online products. This is on the big sellers. This is not some website that you get an email to that says, come and buy our product here, please, and you get caught that way. None of that. This is the big sellers online, and you go to them and you think, well, that's cool. It looks like product X, and you click it and you buy it, and it rocks up and it's got no branding. It had the branding on the website, didn't have the branding when it arrived. We're going to find out how we can avoid those pitfalls. We'll explain it to you, and then how to avoid it. So that's the show. Busy show. It's 6:15.
Kathy Mohlahlana on SAfm.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen, and nothing is off the agenda. Join me on the Talking Point every day from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on SAfm.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
The Daily News Diary on SAfm.
And Musa, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
Sun is slowly rising. The sky is orange. Just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you.
MK versus SABC, your top story today.
Yes, it is. The Gauteng High Court will hear the legal case by the former President Jacob Zuma and the Mkhonto weSizwe Party, and it is against the use of the term Government of National Unity by the SABC. And in its urgent application, the MK Party is asking the High Court, amongst other things, to declare the conduct of the SABC as unconstitutional and invalid, alleging that it breaches the SABC's independence and public mandate.
Gotta keep a close eye on that. We're gonna be careful with our words sometimes, don't we? All right, what else is happening?
The former personal assistant of the Free State Premier, Ace Magashule, is back in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court today, and the state is expected to respond to Murwadi Cholota's bail application. She's facing charges of fraud, corruption and money laundering, and made a brief appearance in court yesterday. The alleged crimes relate to the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal tender scandal. The Groblersdal Magistrate Court will also be delivering its ruling on the bail application by 2 of the 5 accused drug lords and the 2 South African nationals. They started their bail application last week. The 3 Mexican nationals abandoned their bail applications and the Hawks arrested them. The accused on a farm where drugs worth 2 billion rand were discovered. The Senzo Mahiwa murder trial also continues in the High Court in Pretoria. That's where legal teams are arguing if there were calls made between Kelly Khumalo and some of the 5 men accused of his killing. The retired cell phone data analyst Colonel Lambert Steyn has been recalled to the witness stand, and that is to clarify some discrepancies in his testimony. Looking in the Eastern Cape, the inquest into the deaths of the 21 young people at the Enyobeni Tavern continues at the East London Magistrates Court, and a former Tavern employee testified yesterday, and that was about the planning that took place to promote that night's party at the establishment. We're also looking at safety concerns that have led to disruptions of services at the Timber Hospital in Kabokweni, that's outside White River. Healthcare workers there down tools after 2 separate incidents of intimidation. And lastly, expectations ahead of Stats SA today releasing its jobs data for the second quarter, and analysts predicting expecting a marginal reduction in the rate of unemployment.
Anything is better than nothing.
Yeah, you would want a decline.
Yeah, anything. Just let's start small.
A little bit of hope.
That's
yes.
Exactly right. And Musa, thank you very much. More than throughout the morning here on SAfm. Full bulletins coming top of the hour, headlines at the bottom of the hour.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
Let's look at your weather. There's a lot of weather. There are severe weather alerts of impact-based warnings. Yellow level 3 warning, damaging waves, leading to disruption of small harbours and ports expected between Cape Columbine and St. Francis Bay tonight. Level 2 warning of damaging winds over Chris Hani and Joe Klabi district municipalities, as well as the Amahlati and Matatiele local municipalities in the Eastern Cape. A yellow level warning 1 of damaging interior winds, leading to localized problems for high-sided vehicles over the southern parts of the Pixley, Kaseme and the Namakwa district municipalities in the Northern Cape, as well as the Central Karoo district municipality in the Western Cape. There's a yellow level warning 1 of damaging winds, leading to difficulty in navigation at sea, expected between Cape Columbine and Cape Agulhas. There's also a fire danger warning expected in places over the central parts of the country, the western parts of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as in places over the Central and Little Karoo district municipalities in the Western Cape. And there's an advisory of a cold front expected to pass through the Eastern Cape tomorrow. The public and small stock farmers advise that cold conditions, strong to gale force winds along the coast and over the interior, as well as high seas, can be expected. Today, Pretoria will be fine 6 to 24, Johannesburg fine 4 to 23, Vereeniging fine 3 to 25. Mbombela will have morning fog patches, otherwise be partly cloudy. It'll become fine from the afternoon 13 to 24. Polokwane partly cloudy, morning fog patches, becoming fine from the afternoon, 8 to 24. Mahikeng, Freiburg and Bloemfontein, fine and windy. Mahikeng 7 to 28, Freiburg 1 to 29, Bloemfontein 1 to 26. Kimberley and Uppington also fine and windy. Kimberley from 1 to 28, Uppington 6 to 30. Cape Town will be cloudy, scattered showers and rain this afternoon. A moderate to fresh northwester but will become a moderate southwester from the evening, 11 to 15. George is partly cloudy, light and variable wind becoming fresh to strong northwester to westerly from the evening, 9 to 20. Gqeberha is partly cloudy, it'll become cloudy at night. A light to moderate northwesterly wind which will become fresh to strong southwester in the afternoon, 8 to 29. East London is fine, a light to moderate northwesterly wind in the morning, otherwise northeasterly. It'll become fresh to strong southwester in the evening, 11 to 28. Durban is partly cloudy, a moderate to fresh northeasterly, 15 to 25. Richards Bay partly cloudy, moderate to fresh northeasterly, 15 to 28. And Pietermaritzburg today will have morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy, 10 to 27.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
Let's get an update on what is happening in Gaza. Hamas have urged Gaza mediators to implement a truce plan presented by the US President Joe Biden instead of holding more talks. Palestinians fled a new Israeli military operation. People are being moved up and down the territory there. Naim Jina is a senior researcher at Humanity at Mistra. Naim, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Let's talk about this truce plan. What did Joe Biden suggest?
Well, this was on the 31st of May when he announced a plan that he said came from the Israelis. The plan was a three-phased approach to a ceasefire, which would start with a ceasefire, exchange of captives and prisoners, some of the captives released that are being held in Gaza, the Israelis, and Palestinian prisoners being released. And then a second phase where the prisoner exchange will continue. Israeli troops will withdraw to a certain area, and then a third phase, where there'll be a full withdrawal, a return of the bodies of captives, etc. So 3 phases. Within hours of his announcement, Hamas announced that they accepted the proposal. Israel to date has still not accepted what is supposed to be its proposal. And I think that's where the sticking point is.
Okay, what is that? So Hamas wants this to go ahead and Israel are not accepting it, and Israel want to go to talks?
So what Israel has done over the past few weeks is include a number of new conditions, so that it's not the original proposal that Biden had announced. New proposals, new conditions, which really make it virtually impossible for any Palestinian to accept. The talks issue now is it's a bit interesting that the talks are being called for, because there is a proposal on the table. One side has accepted it, the other side hasn't. And this, I suppose, is Hamas's argument. Why do you need to have talks if we have something on the table which we've accepted already? I mean, one theory about that is that the Americans are using the idea of talks in order to delay or prevent any action from Iran. You remember that Hamas's leader was assassinated in Iran a few weeks ago, and Iran has vowed to have a response to that. A response which we're not sure what it is, but it could be quite serious. And so they also said 2 or 3 days ago that if there's a ceasefire in Gaza, then they will step back and there will be no response. And so the one theory is that the Americans want to use the idea of there being talks to prevent any such response.
There are also accusations that the Israeli Prime Minister's Benjamin Netanyahu has been accused of prolonging the war for political gain.
Yes, I mean, this has been the case from very early on. Being accused of that mainly by Israelis, but also by many others. Political gain because he wants to stay in power, but there's also a whole personal gain issue. and that is that he's facing numerous charges in court. And the suspicion is that as soon as his term as Prime Minister ends, he'll be hauled to court, and he might spend some time in prison. So prolonging the war means staying out of prison longer, but also if he is able to make major gains and get victories in the war, then maybe that will turn public perception, and he'll get more support. That's the calculation.
Okay, so he's accepted this invitation from the US, Qatar, and Egypt for this round of talks scheduled for Thursday. What is going to happen? As you say, Hamas wants this truce plan to come through. So what is the current state of play?
Current state of play. There won't be talks because Hamas has not accepted to go. Or there will be, the talks anyway were not face-to-face, they were not direct, they were indirect. Or the talks will take place, and the three mediators will try and get Israel to agree to some version of the plan that Biden had presented, and then present that version to Hamas separately.
Let's talk about what's happening on the ground now. I said in the introduction, people being moved up and down. They have no idea what's happening. Just short of 40,000 people have been killed now in this situation. What is the current, what are these people experiencing at the moment? Is Israel still bombing these buildings and almost indiscriminately?
Yeah, so just under 40,000 confirmed bodies. Then we have about 15,000 at least of people that are under the rubble, so mostly presumed dead. There was an article in the British Lancet journal that suggested that the death toll goes up to something like 120,000, but whatever that is. Yes, Israel continues bombing. This is the other sticking point for the Palestinians, that there seems to be no intention from Israel's side to actually stop. On Saturday, there was the bombing of a school where whatever schools are still surviving serve as refugee shelters now. So a bombing of a school in which 100 people were killed. And hundreds more injured and maimed. But that was on the 10th of August. From the 1st to the 10th of August, 10 or 11 such schools had been bombed. So that continues. What you mentioned, Khan Yunis in particular, but in other places as well. People get told that they need to evacuate to a safe zone. They get told where the so-called safe zone is. They get to the safe zone, they either get bombed there, or a day or two later they get told that they need to move to another safe zone. And hence there's this constant movement of refugees from one point to another, not knowing whether they ever will be safe or where they might be safe. And from the kind of argument that South Africa made at the International Court of Justice, that this kind of action is part of the ongoing genocide that Israel is perpetrating against Palestinians.
How does Israel justify bombing schools?
Its justification is simple. It says schools, hospitals as well. There's about 35 hospitals in Gaza, and now only about, I think, 2 are actually operational in any kind of way, and not fully. And the justification for bombing hospitals and schools is they would say that there are terrorists hiding within, or there's a terrorist tunnel underneath. Of course, under international law, you can't bomb any civilian infrastructure like that, even with people there, with civilians there, even if that were true. They never give any evidence to show that it's true. They would say wild things like, of the 100 people killed on Saturday in that school, 1/3 were terrorists. But no evidence provided, no evidence of tunnels, etc. But after 10, almost 11 months, I think the world got to the point where Israel says something and we just shrug our shoulders.
Naeem Gina is a senior researcher, humanity at Mistra. Thank you very much for that update. What do you make of that situation? Give us a call, 086 000 2032. Phone lines are always open, and you can send us a voice note as well, 0614 104 107. Business, traffic and sport coming up in a minute. Then we will talk to the city of Cape Town about the decrease in the number of women making use of their family planning methods. We're going to find out why after news headlines at 6:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the state is today expected to respond to the bail application of the former personal assistant of the former Free State Premier Ace Magashule in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. 37-year-old Muradi Cholota made her first court appearance yesterday. The High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear the legal challenge of the former President Jacob Zuma and the Mkhonto weSizwe party against the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity. And Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has asked his country's justice system to take strong action against opposition leaders. He blames them for the deaths of at least 25 people in the aftermath of the disputed presidential elections. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Couple of problems out in the Mpumalanga region. Very heavy mist. Not the usual place. Not so much around Emalafeni, but further out, down around sort of Hendrina, Carolina, that sort of area north of Bethel. So just be careful. I'm hearing of truckers being stopped up at Hendrina, unable to pass because the mist is so heavy. So take it easy up that way, please. There is a crash going into Emalafeni. It's a truck collision just before you get to the Walter Sisulu off-ramp. So as you approach Emalafeni, that N4 driving through towards Middleburg direction, if you like, it's under quite a bit of pressure. Durban, the N2 South remaining closed due to protesting this morning. The road closed towards the South Coast between the Higginson Highway off-ramp and the Southern Freeway on-ramp. So it's right opposite Lamontville. Big pressure on the N2 South ramps to the Higginson Highway, and then motorists over that bridge on the Higginson Highway on Grimsby Road down to Leicester and South Coast Road. It's all very heavily backed up. So avoid that closure, avoid that disruption. Come off the M2 at the M7, go down the M7 to the M4, and then hook into the Southern Freeway where you can reconnect to the N2 South. And Cape Town, heavy pressure on the N2 coming in from Khayelitsha, big traffic through to about the airport runway area, and then a crash on the N2 inbound at Boonga Avenue, causing a delay from the airport exit. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
What Zai? South Africans making waves in Casablanca.
It looks like Vidad Casablanca wants to add some Tau power to their lineup. And you know what? They are under the leadership of former Sundowns coach Rulani Mokoena, and he's shown interest in signing Percy Tau from Al Ahly. Reports suggest that Tau's future in Cairo is in doubt, and that was due to a fallout with Al Ahly's head coach Marcel Koller, the Bafana star who joined Al Ahly from Brighton and Hove Albion in 2021, has been instrumental in the club's success, winning 10 trophies, including 2 CAF Champions League titles. And with his contract set to expire at the end of the upcoming season, several clubs, including Kaizer Chiefs and a couple of Gulf area teams, are monitoring the situation. Closer to home, Stellenbosch have sold their skipper Dino van Rooyen to Orlando Pirates, with leading striker Ikram Reyners expected to move to champions Mamelodi Sundowns in the next 2 days. Van Rooyen, who was dropped from the lineup for the MTN 8 quarterfinal win over TS Galaxy last weekend because of the imminent move, signed a 3-year deal with an option of 2 more, as Pirates are looking for solutions to their trouble right-back position. Elsewhere, Kurt Zuma's proposed move to United Arab Emirates side Shabab Al Ahly has collapsed after the West Ham defender failed a medical. The 29-year-old had travelled to Dubai to complete a lucrative deal, but his advisors are now trying to work out an alternative option. Rugby action, the South Africa A side that started the Under-18 International Series on a high, beating Georgia in Cape Town yesterday, taking a 6-3 lead into the break thanks to the SA Under-18 A side claiming a 23 victory at the Stellenberg High School, while Ireland's under-18 kicked off the tournament with an impressive 42-28 win over England. This after the Irish led 21-7 at half-time. And finally, Olympics news. It's Los Angeles' turn for the torch. Mayor Karen Bass accepted the Olympic flag at the Paris closing ceremony. Bass and the flag arrived in LA after spending the time at the Games with the organizers and city officials, and also learning what it takes to host the world's largest sporting event.
And so that handoff to me was more than just the symbolism. It's a friendship that has developed between our two cities. Much that we have to learn from them. And I think one of the things I'm the most excited about is the way they turned the Olympics in Paris to be the Olympics for everyone. And so it was just a moment of, I feel, tremendous pride and responsibility.
LA 2028. And that's how we wrap it up here. We'll bring more sport on SAfm Breakfast, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAfm.
Ntaling Lachela is our business reporter. Ntaling, good morning to you. What's happening with Macy's in the United States? Big sales chain there.
Morning, John. Now, Macy's has noted how consumer trends have shifted, and so it's closing down about 150 namesake stores across the U.S. It has not said which stores will be affected, but it said those stores account for about 25% of the company's gross square footage, but less than 10% of its sales. So not much of an impact, I guess, on the revenue. Now, the move comes as the growth of online shopping and demographic shifts mean small towns or regions can no longer support a bustling shopping sector. According to Chris Weimer, Senior Director at Fitch Ratings, Macy's store closures will have more of a positive impact on many malls and their consumers. Weimer believes that the departures will quicken the decline of underperforming malls that are no longer viable, making way for some sort of revitalization efforts in more thriving shopping sectors. In stronger malls with desirable locations and financially stable owners. Also notes that owners are eager to reclaim the prime real estate currently occupied by Macy's, allowing them to revamp some of their properties.
CA sales expansion has paid off. What's happening?
Now, local retail distributor and marketing company CA Sales has been on an acquisition path, and it seems like the businesses it's been picking up are starting to benefit the company's bottom line. The group that has clients like Coca-Cola, Tiger Brands, and AB InBev expects earnings to jump by as much as 22%. The group has experienced a significant boost in earnings, boost by the strategic expansion and acquisitions. Just last year, CA Sales acquired the Namibian TNC Group, resulting in a 50% increase in revenue in its Namibian operations. Now, just showing how much of growth the recent additions have been contributing. In the meantime, CA Sales is also mulling a few changes. It's planning to rebalance its revenue streams through a combination of organic growth and strategic initiatives, and this would boost overall margins. At the moment, warehousing and distribution account for about 85% of its revenue, which generates lower margins compared to sales and merchandising. Now, by 2026, the group is targeting a reduction in this proportion to about 70%, anticipating then a corresponding increase in margins and an improved valuation multiple as a result of the shift.
And what's happening on the markets this morning?
So markets had a mixed start to the week. In the US, stocks seesawed between negative and positive territory, but managed to maintain the momentum from late last week as investors braced for key inflation data. Over in the US, over in Asia rather, markets mostly in the green, with Japanese stocks leading the gains. Momentum on that end was largely driven by the country's technology and financial sectors. Coming back home, the JSE starting the week on a bit of a sour note, with the local bourse closing yesterday's session mostly in the red. They all shared down 0.2%. The rand, in the meantime, defying the odds and trading stronger, sitting at 18.24 to the dollar, ahead of those important economic prints from the US.
Ntaling Lachela, thank you very much. Our business reporter, more business in an hour's time.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. Contestants are taken on a flavor journey and must work in teams to bake a colorful, multi-layered cake inspired by the smooth vibes of a tropical island. Featuring special guest judges Mimi and Holly from Baking with the Rays. That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
When 26-year-old Annika got tired of high insurance premiums giving her the runaround, she gave Outsurance a call. She now pays an unbelievable 827 Rand per month to insure her silver 2022 VW Polo Vivo Trendline. SMS out to 30754 for an Outsurance quote to see how much you could save. That's out to 30754 today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's are online.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAfm.
Let's go to the city of Cape Town now. They've expressed concerns over the decrease in the number of women making use of the family planning methods in the last financial year. Facilities for family planning or the use of the facility has decreased by 13,465 from the previous year. Councillor Patricia van der Ross is the MMC for Community Services and Health at the city of Cape Town. Councillor, good morning to you. What are the reasons for this decrease?
Good morning and thanks for the invitation and good morning to your listeners. It is difficult to really point out any single reason for the decrease as it could attribute to many factors, and we've learned that mostly it relies on the individual own circumstances and the perception that comes from taking the services that we offer. And generally we do consider factors such as maybe it's not accessible and the visibility of the services is not clear, and the level of the perception of the person's health or ill health. For example, when women in particular, it's always said that women normally put their family first before themselves, and that could be one of the reasons as well.
So how can the city address the decline?
Well, the health promotions in our communities is key. So City Health remains committed to strengthening that clinic systems to improve access to the facilities. And then some of the facilities obviously offer those community outreach programs for both civic and family planning.
What implications does it have if there are less women going and, as you say, addressing family issues first ahead of themselves?
Well, the implications of the decrease in the appropriate family planning services are relative to families and individuals. However, in terms of the economic and social security, many of us, our youth, our youngsters, is not built, number one, to have families at their ages. For themselves, it's the precarious situations that they find themselves in, the amount it could lead to different traumas. It even could lead to the exposure of other health risks, such as STDs and traumas, like I said earlier. Mm. And this poses serious health risk for the parent not being able at a particular age to be a parent, as well as for that particular parent to look after the newborn. And especially if we have circumstances in some families where parents are unemployed, how will they have the ability to then raise those kids that they are bringing into this world?
There is good news. Women going for cervical smears has increased. How much has that increased, and what does that tell you? That some things are increasing while family planning is on a decrease?
Yes, you see, we say that we do advertise. We advertise the fact that women need to take care of themselves. We particularly push the the message that if you cannot take care of yourself, how will you be able to take care of your family? So all women should receive that cervical screening in their lifetimes. And the City Health hopes to see a continued increase in this total of the number of women getting the cervical smears, and continues to strengthen their system to strengthen our system to allow them access to have this.
And how important is education in all of this? As you said, the advertising, but also making sure that women know about this.
We need to continue to educate from our youngsters from the age of 8, 9 years old until the age of 60, 70 years old. We need to continue to educate women in the importance of having themselves checked out, having themselves looked at, to make sure that they are able to really understand their bodies, know when to go on, whether it's on a regular checkup or on a appointment system, or just popping in at a nearest clinic just to find out if you're still okay. Just have yourself checked out, because you never know what lies underneath yourself, or what illness you've picked up, or those type of things. And with these type of screenings and testing, we will be able to then assist you in that regard. And education is, after all, the driver of success in these types of scenarios. So we always recommend that we share with communities the information and the services that we have on offer, so that they know that they can just visit their nearest clinics and take up these offers.
That's the MMC for Community Services and Health at the City of Cape Town, Councillor Patricia van der Ross.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
7:15. Let's stay with health. The Eastern Cape's released stats that have shown there's been a big increase in teenage pregnancies in the province. Dr. Bulelwa Mzleni is the District Clinical Specialist, Obstetrics and Gynecology at the Sarah Baartman District in the Eastern Cape Province. Doctor, thank you very much. Worrying increase. The majority of girls, 4,000 aged between 15 and 19, but 94 girls aged between 10 and 14 getting pregnant. What are we taking away from the stats?
Good morning. We've got an increase in teenage pregnancy and also in childhood pregnancies. That is, the teenage pregnancies 15 to 19 and the child pregnancies from 10 to 14. So this is really a problem that is we are facing in the province, but the problem is a multi-sectoral problem, because it's not only the Department of Health that is responsible for this, because we only see them as pregnant, especially the young ones, the 10 to 14, which is really a problem. But there are many factors that are contributing for us to have a high teenage pregnancy, like our parents, the absent parents, and when parents are at work and not having time to look after the children and discussing sex issues with the children, and so that the child only receives sex education from school and peers. We know that that is difficult, and also that because our province is a low socio-economic province, so really these children are being abused for money by the older men, and also the high drug abuse and alcohol also is a factor that is filtering in, causing the young girls to be pregnant early. So we're trying by all means as a province to try and decrease the teenage pregnancies. We do school to our school nurses, because we've got school health where they go to school and educate them about contraceptives and the effects of having sex early and having the pregnancies early, because then the child's health is affected. And remember that these children, sometimes they hide this pregnancy and then they get complications like hypertension, which might lead to maternal death. So we do really try and reduce the teenage pregnancies by doing education at school. And we also have intergovernmental meetings with our social development and SAPS and education, so that we can deal with all of this. Because what we also found that even the human trafficking is also a factor. So when these children are being trafficked, then they fall pregnant, and then we find them there. So then we also involve the SAPS. So it is a multi-sectoral stakeholder involvement. So it's not only Department of Health, but we do offer contraceptives, and we've got what we call youth zones in our clinics, where we focus on the youth so that the youth, they don't have to chew. You know that children don't want to go to the clinics for family planning, because then you see everybody who knows you, what are you doing here, and the parents and all of that. So we've got what we call youth zones in our clinics, where these children, they just come in straight, and they are nurses that are allocated, which are younger nurses, to also educate and to give that appeal, other than being served by somebody who is as old as your mother, who's going to be judgmental and all of that. So we have youth zones that we've established in our clinic, so that we fast track them. They don't chew, they just go straight there. These are their kicking spots. Some of them will put computers and Wi-Fi, so whilst they're waiting, they can do their homeworks, and they can also surf the internet and do some education, and the nurse can also educate the children there.
All right, Doc, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for raising that. Dr. Bulelwa Mzileni is District Clinical Specialist, Obstetrics and Gynecology at the Sarah Baartman District, Eastern Cape Province. These numbers are horrific. Nationally, 2,716 girls between the ages of 10 and 14 years. 119,586 girls between 15 and 19 became mothers in the country. On top of that, 1,226 girls aged 10 to 14 terminated their pregnancies. Almost 20,000 aged 15 to 19 also had abortions. And when asked, you heard the doctor there saying that it was older men taking advantage of the girls. But when asked, the girls were asked who impregnated them, they always say it's boys their age. It takes two to tango. You're with SAfm. It's 9 minutes to 7.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Reminder of the truck crash at Emelafeni. If you're on your way through Mpumalanga direction, Middleburg, if you like, so the N4 eastbound, just as you come into that central Emelafeni area, approaching the Walter Sisulu exit, there is quite a big backlog of traffic being held up there. Mike 1 from the Ormonde area through Empire, that's heavy again this morning. Behind that, the M2 coming in from Benrose queues up into the connections onto that Mike 1 North. Durban's N2 South remaining closed at Montville due to protesting. The road is closed between the Higginson Highway off-ramp and the M4 Southern Freeway. So the N2 from the cement factory backs into that Higginson Highway off-ramp, and Chatsworth Higginson Highway very heavy coming out of Chatsworth across that N2 bridge and down onto a very busy Grimsby Road as well. M13 from St John's Avenue Bridge through the roadworks at Paradise Valley. That's all pretty slow this morning. And the M7 into Pinetown starting to backlog again from Hunstedman Highway. Cape Town, no traffic lights right in the middle of Goodwood. Jake Skirtle and 4 Trekker Roads. Delays all over that really busy junction, and there's a breakdown on the N2 inbound still with us at Bunga Avenue. So coming through from the airport, quite a bit of pressure on the N2. The left lane closed at that stationary vehicle obstruction. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
In August, we celebrate our amazing women farmers who nourish and clothe our nation.
Farmers and researchers and academia can work closely.
Catch Living Land on Sundays at 11 a.m. on SABC2.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat him? From inside his own arm! Oh, Moises Caicedo!
2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm.
Let's stay in the Eastern Cape health matters wise. The Rural Health Advocacy Project, a division of the WITS Health Consortium, who's looking to promote fair and equal access to quality healthcare in rural communities, has supported the Eastern Cape's plans to repurpose hospitals. Let's find out what that means with Russell Rensburg, who is the director of the Rural Health Advocacy Project, a division of the WITS Health Consortium. Russell, good morning to you. When they talk about repurposing hospitals, what do you mean?
Well, I think, hospitals are very expensive to run and sometimes they're not always fit for purpose. But when you look at the healthcare needs, 90% of the healthcare needs can probably be met at primary healthcare. So repurposing a hospital could be anything from repurposing it as a community health center, which is like a day hospital, or if there are other facilities available around there, repurposes for other needs, like maybe homes for pregnant mothers as they await to give birth, or rehab facilities, because we have a massive substance abuse problem in the country that we haven't really managed that well. But ultimately, most of these decisions should be informed by what the data is saying and how best we can utilize the money that's available for publicly financed healthcare.
So how is the Eastern Cape going about the process then?
They've got an ambitious plan or service optimization plan, which is based on what they call a hub and spoke model, where they're looking to sort of redirect a lot of capacity to larger hospitals so they're able to deal with some issues a little bit more efficiently, rather than having a whole lot of small facilities, some with as little as 25 beds, which are overcapacitated and often not able to deliver the most basic healthcare services. So I think they're letting the data lead them, and once they have an indication of like service standards and the like, they can then go into a process of engaging with communities on how best to transition those hospitals to other uses.
Obviously, the communities, as you say, need to be involved, but what about the staff? Will they need to be moved around? Will they need retraining?
Look, I think the staff or healthcare workers training are pretty much standardized. So it'd be doctors, nurses, and the like. They wouldn't necessarily need retraining, but I think there would be a process of a consultation with that staff to be moving them to facilities that are relatively close to where they already are. Because as you know, the Eastern Cape has something like 91 different public hospitals, which makes it a very hospice-centric system, when on the balance of that, greater investments in primary healthcare could probably deliver much better health outcomes over the longer term. So I think it'd be a fairly long negotiating process to arrive at that, but ultimately I think the goal is to ensure better healthcare services for communities where they are that are sufficient quality to meet their needs.
Almost want to take a step back. Has there been an issue to lead to this, and can other provinces learn from this?
Look, I think, healthcare needs are unlimited. The resources to respond to them are. So I think ultimately South Africa, because we have this obligation to provide progressive realization of healthcare services, how we spend the money can have a big impact on the health outcomes. Right? And I think 90% of healthcare interventions can be met at district level, so at primary healthcare clinics and at district hospitals that are well located. So at the end of the day, we get more bang for our money, because the average patient they visit in a primary healthcare center can be anything between 600 to 800 rand, whereas the patient day equivalent in a hospital can be anything from 2,500 rand per day to 4,500 rand per day. So just on the surface, the cost advantages of delivering care closer to the community far out, and the benefits that you derive from that is significant. And I don't think the Eastern Cape is the first to do this. I mean, the Western Cape in the early 90s, under the leadership of Rita Dula and others like that, conducted similar plans, where they rationalized their system, made sure that they had strong regional hospitals, invested heavily in primary health care, and ultimately today, the Western Cape probably has some of the best health outcomes with far fewer hospitals. So it's really just about utilizing your available capacity better being more responsive to the needs of the community where they are, and implementing data-driven decision-making systems that make sure that ultimately patient care and service isn't compromised.
And just quickly, Russell, this is all with the NHI hanging over the head of medical services. So how does that the NHI's potential coming in affect all of this?
Look, I think the NHI probably will facilitate this kind of thing. 95% of the NHI reforms focus primarily on the public system. And through the funding, it sort of restructures the system into 3 different levels. So you have the primary healthcare level, right, which will be funded through these contracting units for primary care with different service delivery options. And then you have a different system for managing hospitals, both at the regional, tertiary, and central level. And then a big part of the NHI success will be managing the referral pathway to ensure that people access care at the right level. And I think all of these things over the next 5 years, there are various measures that they can use within existing frameworks to start creating a pathway to the NHI. And I think this could be one of those.
Russell Rensburg, thank you very much, is the Director of the Rural Health Advocacy Project, a division of Wits Health Consortium.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
Essential cover from OUTsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, bail application of Makgashole's former personal assistant set to continue, and MK Party and SABC to face off over use of Government of National Unity term. Good morning. The state is today expected to respond to the bail application of the former personal assistant of the former Free State Premier, Ace Makhashule, in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. 37-year-old Murwadi Cholota made her first court appearance yesterday. In her affidavit, she declared that she was confident the state's case against her was weak. The state requested time to prepare to oppose Cholota's bail application. Cholota, along with Makhashule and others, are facing charges of fraud, corruption and money laundering linked to the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal tender scandal. The High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear the legal challenge of the former President Jacob Zuma and the Umkhonto we Sizwe Party against the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity. In papers before the court, the complainants argue the ANC and the DA signed a statement of intent and invited other political parties to join, after which 9 other organizations heeded the call. Zoleka Kodashe reports.
The applicants launched an urgent application for declaratory relief that the use of the GNU term is invalid and unconstitutional. The parties argue that it's illegal for the SABC, an organization with constitutional obligations, to mimic what they term as an inaccurate and subjective term for the prevailing political arrangement. They add that the public broadcaster's conduct breaches the additional duties to be independent, objective and impartial. Zuma and the MK Party rely on various definitions of a government of national unity.
My Vote Counts, a non-profit organization that promotes democratic reforms in South Africa, says it's determined to ensure changes are made to the amended Political Party Funding Act. The Western Cape High Court yesterday reserved judgment in the matter between My Vote Counts, the Presidency, Parliament and the Home Affairs and Justice and Constitutional Development Departments. My Vote Counts lodged an urgent application against the parties due to the amendment of the Act. The litigation follows the signing of the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill into law. Under the Act, limits for independent and political party funding were removed ahead of the 2024 elections. Joel Bregman is a senior researcher at My Vote Counts.
So it's very simple. We are asking them to reinstate 2 key limits that were removed in the Political Party Funding Act, now the Political Funding Act. These are the upper amount that you can donate in a given year, which is 15 million rand, and the 100,000 rand disclosure threshold. These were removed when the Electoral Matters Amendment Act amended our party funding rules.
Further afield, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has asked his country's justice system to take strong action against opposition leaders. He blames them for the deaths of at least 25 people in the aftermath of the disputed presidential elections. Maduro has accused the opposition of financing and organizing attacks in the past 2 weeks.
Exijo a todos los poderes del Estado mayor celeridad.
I demand from all branches of the state greater speed, greater efficiency, and an iron fist against crime, against violence, against hate crimes. An iron fist and strict, precise justice. Enforcing constitutional principles will lead to a healthier society.
And finally, today is International Left-Handers Day. The day, which is observed every year on the 13th of August, raises awareness of the challenges left-handed people face in a predominantly right-handed world. A man called Dean Campbell first observed the day in 1976. He founded the Left-Handers Club in the US. Campbell, himself a left-hander, focused on the advantages and disadvantages of being left-handed. Recapping the top story, the state is today expected to respond to the bail application of the former personal assistant of the former Free State Premier Ace Magashule in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. 37-year-old Murwadi Cholota made her first court appearance yesterday. For SAfm News, I am Ann Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and R1 million liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS car to 43187. So you think your older car doesn't need insurance, but what if your car accidentally caused damage to someone's expensive car? Outsurance Essential is affordable insurance for older cars, giving you up to R1 million liability cover and loads more. Plus, claims are paid in cash, so you can use your own panel beater. Outsurance Essentials, priced for cars older than 5 years, valued under 125,000 Rand and not financed. SMS car to 43187 or call 08 600 60,000 today. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online, standard rate supply.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Keeping an eye on the N4 approaching Emilifeni. The road is now closed. This is coming in from the Balmoral, from the Bronkhorstspruit side, driving eastbound into Emilifeni, approaching the Walter Sisulu off-ramp. It's a truck that's lost its load and all lanes are blocked, and motorists are either being put on the verge or through the sort of shoulder lane, but there's a very heavy queue approaching Emilifeni this morning, I can tell you that. Durban's N2, just confirming the road has been reopened between Chatsworth and Umlazi after earlier protesting in the Lamontville area. It's left a lot of traffic on the Higginson Highway and Grimsby Road from Bayview in Chatsworth all the way through to sort of Leicester Road and South Coast Road territory. That's as motorists and truckers especially were diverting earlier. Cape Town, no lights right in the heart of Goodwood. Jake Scoville and Fort Trekker Road. There's multiple routes through Goodwood this morning that are backed up as a result of that. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, rugby, the Springbok legend Dwayne Vermeulen hints at changes ahead of the second test against the Wallabies. And in cricket, the Proteas are gearing up for a crucial test series decider against the West Indies starting tomorrow. Details for you at around 7:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
It's 8 minutes past 7. Good morning. John Cherokee with you. It's SAfm Breakfast through till 9 o'clock. Coming up in a moment, we will be finding out what's happening with the water in Johannesburg. There are a number of issues with the water there. Remember, they have been fixing on the pipes and the valves, and they were shutting off it was almost from west to east across the city of Johannesburg, but there are still ongoing water issues. We'll find out from a mechanical engineer about why there are problems, something called an airlock. One just open the taps and let the air out. Don't understand. And then you heard in the news about my vote counts that were in court yesterday about this funding for political parties. I see the court has reserved judgment, but we'll talk to a political analyst about what that case is about, what the implications are, and what the reserved judgment means. And then later on, we're going to get an update on the Riverlands disaster, and we're going to talk a lot about electricity. I've made a whole host of notes here. Eskom's making too much power, yet there is still load reduction, yet we're told that load shedding has not gone away, and I see they're looking at the pricing of electricity as well, so we're going to talk to an energy expert about all of that. So don't go away, you're with SAfm Breakfast.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For superfast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. Contestants are taken on a flavor journey and must work in teams to bake a colorful, multi-layered cake inspired by the smooth vibes of a tropical island. Featuring special guest judges Mimi and Holly from Baking with the Rays. That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
SAfm supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAfm, leading the conversation. SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
7:10. Municipal workers' salaries are said to be excessively high compared to the private sector. Municipalities just struggling to afford the sky-high salaries, which means you and I pay more rates and taxes. Unions are still fighting to increase the salaries more. That currently 8% is what they're arguing. Let's find out what's happening there with Dr. Tim Make, who's a local government specialist. Doctor, good morning to you. Why are municipalities paying so much more?
Well, good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. I think the issue of salary increases, while we understand that it's a matter that all employees are entitled to, but there has to be a serious consideration of affordability at the same time. Now, the question that you are raising, it's a very important question because while there are salary increases within and amongst all municipalities in the country, when you look at what is being delivered back to the consumers,
right,
surely it leaves much to be desired. And that begins to tell you that even when the councils are considering those salary increases, they are ignoring or they are deciding not to consider the issue of affordability. Because in the first instance, is that when you have to increase the salary, even the agreements which they sign at the bargaining council, it allows for those municipalities that may not afford to delay the implementation of the salary increase until such time that they are able to afford those increases. And at the end of the day, like you've correctly stated, there will be increases in rates and taxes, but that does not equate to the quality of the service that people do receive.
So, people would be happy, I guess, to pay good salaries if you were getting good service delivery, and that's part of the issue here. But it's excessive. It makes my eyeballs water when I see the difference in price. Some workers that in the private sector would get 80,000 Rand a year are getting almost 300,000 Rand a year for the same job. But at the same time, these are human beings. You can't say to a municipal worker now, you've got to take a pay cut 4 times what you're currently earning. You can't do that, can you?
No, you can. Unfortunately, even the law didn't allow you to do that, precisely because municipalities are operating within a highly regulated environment. So it may not be that too easy, even to consider, cutting, downsizing the number of the jobs that they have. It's something that the law wouldn't allow a municipality to do that kind of a situation. But in the private sector, you can be able to decide that I'm going to cut the number of employees that I have because I'm bringing new technologies to supplement the processes that could have been done manually. But in government, in local government, that is not something that you can be able to consider. What then is going to happen is that you'll either decide that when somebody goes on retirement or when somebody resigns, you decide not to fill that position so as to make up towards the salary bill, trying to reduce the salary bill that you're sitting with. And that's a matter that unfortunately has to be treated with the sensitivity that it deserves. Let me just give you an indication. One of the most mistakes that local government has been committing is to believe that every person will qualify to be employed within local government, whereas local government should be treated more like a business. So whenever you employ a person, you must first ask yourself the question, what value for money do I anticipate from this position that I've created? And whoever comes into this position must be able to give me the return on investment so as to make sure that I make my customers happy at the same time. But that is not exactly what is happening, and we've seen it in the collapse of municipalities. We've got a high number of municipalities that have become dysfunctional, and that goes hand in glove with the fact that we have bloated structures, but at the same time the salary is what municipalities cannot be able to afford when you look at the revenue collection.
Is that the problem? That, as you say, if you want to professionalize the public service, you need to pay people well. But if you can't afford it, then you're going to do what, as you say, you're putting people in just to give them jobs. Where is the balance?
Well, look, the balance should come from a point where we begin to appreciate that there is what we call job profiling, and you need to make sure that you match the job against what the municipality would want to deliver. If in this position we want the person who is a qualified engineer, surely it doesn't help us to go and employ a person who is not as yet qualified to be an engineer. Maybe we go and employ a technician. For obvious reasons, that is going to create a problem for you to go and outsource the capacity so as to make sure that you complement that which you have, and that becomes another cost. So if we were to say we want to professionalize local government, we need to be serious about making sure that if a position requires an engineer, qualified and registered engineer, that's what we should go and do. We shouldn't go and do anything below or lower what that position requires. Otherwise, it's going to create an additional cost on our part because we're going to have to appoint consultants. So the balance here should be on people understanding that local government must be treated more like a business. If in a business you want a person who is well trained as an artisan, you can't go and get a person who's not equal to that very task. Otherwise, it means that you need to go out and get an additional support for that person, and that's how we miss it in local government.
Dr. Tamake is a local government specialist. Thank you very much. Salga arguing that the National Treasury found that 86% of municipalities were in financial distress, 66 experiencing severe financial distress, 223 will be exempted from the increase. Unions are disagreeing. Unions are looking for an 8% increase across the board. What do you make of that? Give us a call, 086 000 2032.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late on.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
It's 20 minutes past 7. Just before the elections, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed into law the Electoral Matters Amendment Act that amended the Political Party Funding Act, which created, according to my vote counts, a lacuna, a legal gap. They went to court yesterday with the Presidency, the Justice, Correctional Services and Home Affairs Ministry, as well as the Speaker of the National Assembly, to try and close this gap. I see the court has reserved judgment. Let's try and get an explanation of what this means with Nkosi Kulule Nyambezi. He's a political analyst. Nkosi Kulule, good morning to you. Thanks very much. This is about the upper limit of how much can be donated to a political party and what the lowest disclosure amount is. So what is the current, where are we now that the court has reserved judgment?
Oh, thank you very much. The court has more information now as of yesterday in terms of the interested parties and what is it that they have to say. Because back on May 17th, Judge Daniel Tulare had said all interested parties must come to make presentations on the matter. We hope that the court will make a decision soon, because we've had the interested parties like the Presidency, the Department of Justice, Home Affairs and the Speaker. They have indicated that they do not intend to oppose the court decision on the matter, even if it goes either way. And so the protagonists that say, indeed, we need to go back into having that minimum threshold for reporting, which is 100,000, and the upper limit cap of 15 million, their argument might succeed.
Every day that we're waiting for this gap remains, and there could be nefarious happenings in the background. Is that part of is that being looked into?
Very much so. The previous elections, that the gap has been materialistic in that a lot of political parties received money and they had no obligation to declare anything, even if they're above 100,000, they had no obligation to declare any donations above 50 million. We had seen in the reports on these disclosures, reports of the IEC, that a lot of parties, big and small, in the second quarter of 2024, they had already accumulated a lot of money. So it could be that some parties that had already received more than 15 million in that 12-month period ending in April 2024 were able to get more money because now the upper limit was no longer applicable. And I can say also, going forward, the 2026 municipal elections are around the corner. So it could also be that there is already an accumulation of these donations by these parties because there is no requirement to disclose as it used to be before the 8th of May.
I don't know what the legal term is, but if this gap is closed, would those parties need to declare those donations in hindsight?
Maybe not, because the law does not usually operate in retrospect. So if anything happens and maybe by the 30th of September, the court releases a decision that says you must put back those markers in terms of the minimum and the maximum, it could then be that the operation of that will be prospective from that date. And of course, why do political parties want to hide the money they get? what is it's because there is this disproportionate funding of political parties by business and other interests wanting to influence the policy and the legislation. There is this disproportionate appetite to fund parties that are going to reciprocate by giving tenders to private interests that have been funding them. So it is not a neutral space that we are seeing, and hence we hope that the court can act with speed. We hope that the president can act with speed in ensuring these things, because in fact, a lot of this didn't need to be taken to court to get a court decision. All you needed is a political will from the president to say we will keep intact the threshold, even if they had been adjusted. But the situation where you just do not have any markers is completely unacceptable.
Kosi Kulule, thank you very much. And Kosi Kulule Niambezi is a political analyst here on SAfm.
Keeping you informed and ready for the day ahead on #SAfm Breakfast.
25 minutes past 8. Let's find out what's happening with the water in Johannesburg. Ongoing water issues, despite Joburg Water and Rand Water saying that they're finished with their maintenance. They ended with the Palmit pump station, supplies sand in Midrand and South Hills and Alexandra Park in Johannesburg. That was at the end of July. But the reservoirs are still struggling to recover. Gugulethu Xuma is Johannesburg Water's. In fact, we're going to get Gugulethu on the line in just a minute and get an update from Johannesburg Water and find out what's happening there. But don't forget, as always, you can take your voice notes on 0614 104 107. You can also give us a call, 086 000 2032. We'll have some time later on in the program. Let's go to Gugulethu. Gugulethu, good morning to you. Why are people in Ilovo still not having water almost, what is it now, 2 weeks later?
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners. Yes, there are still challenges, but we've made some good improvement overnight in the Ilovo system. So not all the customers within Ilovo only have water, but perhaps those in the high-lying areas will still have some challenges, because for the normal reservoir supply we'll have water, but for the tower and high-lying areas we'll still need to do some pumping. But yes, we still have some recovery challenges on the second week post the maintenance. Thank you.
What can consumers do to help you?
Perhaps consumers, we focus on using water sparingly. That is the best that the consumers can do, because we understand that in a metropolitan and in the urban environment, we need to provide water through the reticulated facilities. That is your normal tap at home. However, the customer can use water sparingly in certain areas. I would say greater, even outside the Sentin or Ilovo that we are referring to. We also need to encourage paying for the services, because that plays a big role as far as the infrastructure and the investment on the infrastructure. You will see that the collection of revenue as far as the collecting for the city of Johannesburg at large is quite has declined, which affects the performance of the city and eventually affects the performance of the entities. Thank you.
A lot of work was done, Gugulethu, as I was saying earlier, from west to east across the city. Are you, as Joburg Water, happy with that work? Is this now 3-4 years of genuine water we're going to be getting?
We're not anticipating a large project. Remember, we've done a project last year during the winter, which was smaller and focusing on the Ekenhof. But if you're looking at this one, we were actually doing all the systems that Rand Water had. And the maintenance itself was Rand Water driven, but of course Rand Water is a bulk distributor of water. So whenever they do maintenance, we also use that opportunity, we'll say opportunity maintenance for us, because now there is a window. But however, we mostly focus on keeping the system stable, keeping a fair distribution across. But the system has changed because the customer profile has changed. There's an increase of population, like in your Midrand. Usually it's very stable because Midrand is younger generally. Sentin is also a stable system, but to this point, we can see that there is an impact, there is a different consumption pattern that's changed, which now increase the general demand that we have. And of course, if the demand is higher, your recovery process will tend to take slower. We will say last year or last few years, we were taking a week to get the system stable, but you can see now it's already taking us 2 weeks just to keep the system itself stable. Thank you.
Are we bordering on chaos here, Gugulethu? If it takes 2 weeks to recover, if there's just one little issue, are we going to be without water?
The infrastructure that we have, remember, even on our business plan, we will demonstrate that there's underinvestment which is being accumulated. We're sitting at 24 billion rand. But what does it mean to the infrastructure itself? Does it mean we haven't been upgrading at the rate that we should? Yes. Does it mean we haven't been adding capacity within the areas like the areas that are still developing, your mid-range? You will also see that there's still some the development are not saturated. Even in Sandton, if you drive in the city, in the center of Sandton or around the Mike 1, you will see that there's still some new development. And when you see those new development, they mean the infrastructure must respond to those developments. And now if you're sitting with a backlog, it means now you are already on the backlog on the existing infrastructure that should have been increased as far as capacity is concerned and upgraded as far as the renewal program is concerned. So we do have those challenges that will creep in. When the infrastructure now is tested to the limit, like this maintenance program we were doing, we'll find challenges now that the infrastructure is not responding to the best that we would anticipate. Thank you.
Gugulethu Xuma is Johannesburg Water's electromechanical manager. You're with SAfm. It's 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, analysts say they expect a marginal reduction in the rate of unemployment when Statistics South Africa releases its jobs data for the second quarter today. The state is today expected to respond to the bail application of the former personal assistant of the former Free State Premier S. Magashule in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. 37-year-old Muruadi Cholota made a first court appearance yesterday. And political analyst Asandangwa Sheng says it's important for the electorate to know who funds the political parties they plan to vote for. The issue is back in the spotlight. This as the Western Cape High Court reserved judgment in the matter between My Vote Counts, the Presidency, Parliament and the Home Affairs and Justice and Constitutional Development Departments. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Right, a heads up, if you're driving into Pretoria, there's just been a crash involving a truck near the traffic lights at the prison. So very heavy backlogs. You might wonder if you're on the N14, just off around at the Eupheus and go up via Fountain Circle into Pretoria that way and avoid a standstill on the Kagosi Mampura. It is effectively the extension of the N14. Crash on Joburg Z1 North before Malabongwe. Traffic stays pretty heavily back through Bayers Nordir, marching back towards 14th Avenue. Inbound to Galuli's N12 and R24 routes are heavy again today. And a vehicle flipping over, losing its load at Emelathleni. It's on the N4 eastbound. There's quite a backlog of traffic if you're driving into Emelathleni from Balmoral, from the Bronkhorstspruit side as you come down towards the sort of Walter Sisulu Road, central Emelathleni. That's where the problem spot is today. Just confirming, Durban's N2 at Lamontville open both ways. The northbound side was open much earlier. The southbound side opened just before 7 a.m. There was some burning tyres across the highway, which closed it all down, but it is reopened and traffic's normalised through that area. Apart from Higginson Highway in Grimsby, that stays heavy. M7 from Hunstedman up into St John's Avenue Bridge on your way to Pinetown, very busy. And Cape Town's N2 under pressure, 2 breakdowns. One at Lunga in the left lane and another in the right lane just before Rappenberg. That looks like a bus in the bus and taxi lane, so very heavy. And no lights right in the heart of Goodwood, possibly the busiest junction in Cape Town. It's Jake Scoville and 4 Trekker Road, very heavy into that junction, and surrounding routes getting busy with diverting volumes. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. What are the Boks going to look like against the Wallabies, do you feel?
It's Dwayne. He has got a few tricks up his sleeves. I think he's going to be ready to Vermeulen, the Wallabies. Despite a dominant victory in their rugby championship opener, the Boks assistant coach Dwayne Vermeulen hinting at potential changes for the upcoming test against the Wallabies in Perth. Vermeulen, the former Springbok number 8, emphasizing the need to keep all 33 squad members in top form and suggesting that a fresh energy could boost their performance.
Obviously, you want to use all 33 because you need the guys to stay on top form, and you need the guys to perform when there's an injury and they need to have game time or have played a game. So there might be a couple of changes. So I don't know yet, but you need game time, you need experience. It's a big one for us. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we can still work on.
Let's go to cricket, where Protea skipper Themba Bavuma praising Keshav Maharaj for his superb bowling performance, which kept the West Indies on the back foot throughout the first test, which ended in a draw. He also lauded Tristan Stubbs for his brilliant 68 of 54 balls, offering a glimpse into the future of Protea's cricket. Now, reflecting on these performances, Bavuma emphasizing the importance of maintaining this momentum as they look ahead to the second test starting Thursday at 4 p.m.
Keshav again, kind of carrying that bowling attack from his end, so obviously a lot of confidence that he'll take from there. And then the younger guys as well, a guy like Stubbsy, Tristan Stubbs in the second innings, getting his 50. I think what was exciting is the way that he went about his second innings, having not scored in the first innings, but being confident enough to go out and take the game and really express himself. I think that speaks a lot.
On to soccer, Wydad Casablanca, under the leadership of former Sundowns coach Rulani Mokoena, has shown interest in signing Percy Tau from Al Ahly. Reports suggest Tau's future in Cairo is in doubt due to a fallout with Al Ahly head coach Marcel Koller. The Bafana star, who joined Al Ahly from Brighton in 2021, has been instrumental in the club's success, winning 10 trophies, including 2 CAF Champions League titles. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs made a last-minute attempt to sign striker Kanisa Mayo prior to the player being sold to CR Belouizdad of Algeria, and this according to his agent Basia Michaels. SABC Sport reported that the Cape Town City, they stand to bag around 20 million rand in transfer fees for the Bafana international. The agent suggesting, had Chiefs perhaps acted quickly, although it's unclear whether they would have met City's exact asking price, they might have been able to welcome Mayo at Naturina.
I think Chiefs fell short in that they were seconds too late from the offer that was made by CRB. That's the reality. And from CRB, Kanisa does have an opportunity to move into Europe, So at Chiefs, I'm not saying he wouldn't move from Chiefs to Europe, but it would be a lot harder for him to move from Chiefs to Europe. He would need a season to make a great name for himself, a second season to prove that he's not a one-hit wonder, and by then he's 27, whereas he does something amazing at CRB for the first season. I can tell you that there will be suitors within the European market that come knocking for him. There's no questions about that.
And finally, tennis action. Jessica Pegula defeated Amanda Anisimova 6-3, 2-6, 6-1 in an All-American final to win the WTA Toronto Masters. More sport, top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
Find out what's happening in the markets. And Tauling Lechela is our business reporter. And Tauling, good morning to you. Property coming and going. First of all, property being bought up in Europe.
That's right. So Emira Property Fund is continuing with its diversification strategy. The property fund has been diversifying geographically in an attempt to shield itself from the sour economic conditions here at home. At the moment, it has properties in South Africa and the US, with plans to bulk up its portfolio in Poland. Now, Emira has signed several agreements with DL Invest Group and its wholly owned subsidiary DL Invest Group South Africa, paving the way for Emira to acquire a 25% management stake in the Polish real estate company. This investment will grant Emira a managing interest in the company's issued shares, marking a strategic expansion into that market. Emira will invest about 1 billion rand into the deal, and this will see it have interest in DL Group, which focuses on developing and managing logistics centers, mixed use and office buildings, as well as retail parks within that European region.
And properties being dropped in West Africa.
Digging in that sector now, John, while Emira is picking up more property attack and high proper dumping assets, as you mentioned, the South African property companies are divesting their interest in shopping centers located in Nigeria and Ghana, opting to concentrate their investments in their home market. While attack is refocusing solely on South Africa, Hyprop is also maintaining its presence in Eastern Europe, where it has established a portfolio of properties. Now, the strategic move allows both companies to streamline their investments and prioritize their core markets. The first deal is for the Ikeja City Mall in Nigeria, where Attack and Hyprop are selling their shares to Lango Real Estate for about $32 million. The second deal is for the Ghanaian properties, which Attack is selling its 50% share for just over 27 million rand, also to Lango Real Estate. As mentioned, both companies doing this because they want to refocus on their investments in South Africa, as well as get rid of debts related to these foreign investments.
And what's happening in the market so far?
Asian stock markets are trading mixed following the mixed cues from Wall Street overnight, as traders seemed a bit more reluctant to make significant moves ahead of the release of key U.S. inflation reports later in the day as well as tomorrow. The data likely to impact the outlook for interest rates, so traders are keeping an eye out for that. With that, the Japanese Nikkei leading the gains, increasing 2.9%, while China's Shanghai index is down 0.12%. In the US, futures are in the green. Traders will be digesting the producer prices prints, which will be released later today. Here at home, markets mostly in the red, with the all share down 0.2% in yesterday's trade. The currency seen the rand showing strength, trading at 18.24 to the dollar.
There'll be more business with Ntawling Lechela in an hour.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
Africa Update on SAfm.
And it's Good Morning Advocate Sipho Mantula. There's good news, or is there good news in Sudan? This is a story we spoke about yesterday as well.
A refreshing morning, John, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. John, remember that the Sudanese talks in Geneva had to go on tomorrow, but the U.S. said that the talks will go on despite that the Sudanese army has not yet confirmed its participation. What we've picked up also is that there's a female delegation will also be part of this talks. These talks in Geneva. It will include the AU, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, as well as the United Nations to look at this conflict of Sudan. We know very well 2 million people have fled their homes. 10 million people actually, John, and many people have died since the conflict in April 2023.
And Tanzania detaining opposition leaders?
The arrest of opposition leaders coinciding with International Youth Day, which was yesterday, John. People like Freeman Mbowe, Tundu Lissu were arrested because there was issues that there's accusation of them inciting violence in Tanzania. And this Chadema Youth Wing also said that more than 400 people have been arrested. President Samia Sulu, when he took over from Magufuli, he was raising the issue that will allow free political activity in Tanzania. But with this arrest of the two opposition leaders, it also raises concern in East Africa about free political activism.
So about the SADC summit, I see the DA are wanting to have it moved away from Harare.
It's too late for them to come up with that, John, because Lamula yesterday, Minister Lamula of International Relations, when he was addressing the issues generally on geopolitics and the issues in the continent, the issue came out about the SADC summit that is happening in 4 days from now on the 17th of August in Harare, that there's no way that the government can move the SADC summit, because it was agreed even last year coming from Angola and Zimbabwe taking the chairpersonship of the SADC. Lamula went on to even touch on the DRC mediation of SADC, the mediation of Angola, what is happening there. So you can say that the DA, maybe they're not reading the lines, John, that some of the SADC summits are not member state driven, but they are also regional driven by the Troika and the member states.
And Sipho, you're making me feel old. Tell this next story about Whitney Houston, make me feel old. Go.
John, it was 30 years ago that yesterday this family and there was an Atlanta gala where they said it marks the 30 years when Whitney Houston visited South Africa, the landmark visit when he met with Nelson Mandela. And he performed also during that time. He visited even the Orlando Children's Home during that time when Whitney Houston was still alive. Remember, he passed on in 2012 at the age of 48. Others are saying his visit was important to link these ties that bind South Africa and the U.S., the African-American struggles, the African diaspora struggles that they went through. But with this visit, it was celebrated with a gala dinner yesterday in the U.S.
Whitney Houston. And finally, what's in your archives this morning?
I'm looking 14 years ago, John, 2010, in Gauteng, there was an inaugural Women's Legacy Dialogue that was led by people like Bomme Wendy Luhabe, Punzile Mlambo Nuka, the then Gauteng Premier Nomvula Mukwanyane, looking at the role of women, because now having Women Legacy Dialogue is to look at the role of women in education, in job creation, issues of economy, the role of women leaders in Africa and in South Africa. Those are the issues that came out being the first inaugural Women Legacy Dialogue. I don't think it is still around, John, even now, because we have many different priorities and different issues that are happening in the country if you have to look at the women's struggle post-2010. Asante sana, John, starting leading the conversation, SAfm observing the Women's Month.
Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you very much.
There's listening to the news, then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our transactional banking solutions. Accessing our transactional banking solutions means you'll get a dedicated manager from the country's best relationship bank. When you have a dedicated relationship manager, their business is to understand your business and its financial needs. By understanding all your needs, they can connect you with the right sector and product experts across 15 key African markets. You see, there's transactional banking, then there's transactional banking with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Bongani, good morning. What do you have to say?
Oh, morning, John. Good. Thanks. Mine is on the municipality workers' increment demand. I believe that there's a collaborated effort to weaken the working class by comparing the municipality workers with the private sector. I mean, John, employees were deeply impacted by the non-increment effected by government during the years of COVID. They still need to catch up, and to set a benchmark with private sector, I think it nullifies the comparison with the CIP. So I believe that the workers have the right to demand something which is equivalent to the 8.5%. I think it's very much in line with the cost of living. The comparison with the private sector, I don't think it's authentic, and it needs to be advanced.
Why?
And I believe
why can't you compare it to the private sector?
I mean, the private sector, their intention is profit making, and it's not based on it's based on profit making. Second to that, the sizes of the private companies are not equal to the amount of the size of the municipalities.
So should we?
I think the comparison is a bit unfair.
All right, Bongani and Mpumalanga, thank you very much. What do you make of that? Give us a call 086 000 2032.
Morning, John. Really like your show. You know, the story about the young girls being impregnated, these children. If it is older men, then we need to consider that our country has a lot of pedophiles, and something really urgent needs to be done about them. It's really frightening. I am so glad that my daughter is grown up. She's almost 30, and she's never had a child and all of that, and she's still single. But that's horrific. We have a real pedophile problem in this country. Janet, Eastern Cape.
Good morning, John. The gentleman whom you just interviewed regarding the employment of professionals and their packages,
What he's saying doesn't make sense, because they employ all these professionals that they claim to be employing at the costs that they are willing to pay, but we still have a problem with service delivery. Even where they have to employ their skills, they still don't. So it doesn't really make a difference. Thank you.
Let's go to one more caller. Sizwe Klabecha, hi.
Hello, my brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, my brother. Look, man, there's a problem here, man, on this management of NSFAS. There's a student that I know, a poor student, who got defunded last year. She was at the Free State, right in the middle of the year. Now, she could not get her academic results. She got expelled at the residence. The same student now had to go to Stellenbosch. Same documents. She qualified for funding. And now the university, the Free State, is sending her messages of legal action against her. What is wrong here?
All right, I think that's, see where this NSFAS is.
Same documents, same everything.
And she's
now,
got...
this student, how is she going to perform academically?
Yeah. All right, Sizwe Klabecha, thank you very much. I think this is an ongoing issue, and we'll bring up that issue again, NSFAS. It just keeps on rolling around. Every time you think something's being done, it's not. Let's talk about salary workers or municipal workers' salaries again. Chris is in KwaZulu-Natal. Go ahead.
Yes, I think I hear Bongani is saying we cannot compare with the private sector. So what should we compare with? Should we compare with productivity? The fact that most municipalities are not performing in managing its own finances, let alone in delivering services. I heard you this morning speaking about lack of water in Johannesburg. I visited my old home township in Inanda. They haven't had water in the past 3 weeks. So how do we, when we really measure these things, we either instill excellence and high standards of performance, so that when workers demand, it's not just on the sake of demanding, but it's on the sake of what is it that we have sold and what productivity, what have we produced, especially for the people. Because this is about communities. I think we need to up the game.
Chris in KwaZulu-Natal, thank you very much.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own half? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're on your way into Sandton, coming in from the southern parts of Joburg, it's all pretty heavily backed up from Boyson's, moving through towards Parktown, and then from sort of Houghton Drive all the way through towards Greyston Drive. Stays very busy as well. There's a lot of traffic en route to Sandton, going up the Mike 1 northbound, protesting on Zinnia Drive, just off Marlborough Drive in the Marlborough Gardens area. Might want to give that one a miss this morning. And driving into Pretoria, crash on Kagosu Mompuru near Correctional Services. So the top end of the N14 gets heavy as you get in into that CBD approaching that particular crash. Just a reminder, if you're joining us this morning at this hour, the N2 in Durban, Lamontville, was closed earlier today with protest action between the Higginson Highway and the M4. It's been open for some time and traffic flow is normal. The M4 is fairly heavy, queues at Clarewood, and then from Congella and below up into the CBD, it's quite heavily back there as well. Cape Town, 2 breakdowns this morning have caused a bit of chaos on the N2 inbound. The breakdown at Bunga Avenue is being cleared, but the one further in by Rapenburg Road still there in the right lane. So coming through from Bunga Avenue from Langer, it's very heavy all the way past that obstruction and into Hospital Bend. A crash on Jan Smuts Drive up by Klipfontein Road, leaving Athlone. That's quite heavy. And no traffic lights. N7 Jakes Kerville Drive at 4 Trekker Road. There's a lot of traffic pressure in the Goodwood and Epping areas. Motorists deal with that one this morning. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
News coming up in 6 minutes. Let's get a quick update of what's happening in Riverlands. You'll know that's where those dams gave way, causing extensive flooding and damaging in the Riverlands and Greater Chatsworth area there. Mart Marie Haasbroek is spokesperson for the Swartland municipality. Mart Marie, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, let's talk about that dam 4. Yesterday we were talking about the slipway being dug. What's the current update there?
The slipway is being still monitored, and everything is stable at the moment. The dam wall is stable, and we continuously have experts and engineers up there, so we are very satisfied with the dam level that's being continuously lowered, and that dam is currently stable.
Before we talk about how much money all of this is costing, what's the current humanitarian situation?
The current humanitarian situation is that we still have 94 families that is divided into 2 centers. Those numbers include kids that are being housed, and we are working with various departments to make sure that we can integrate those families into the community again. We are still discussing a way forward exactly as to how this will happen. But we are also still making sure that these families receive food and sanitary products on a daily basis. We are also helping out with food parcels to other members in the community who were affected. So the crisis is ongoing, but we are very grateful for donations that's coming in from all over, and as well from Gift of the Givers, who are rendering assistance wherever possible.
Lots need to be done. We found out about this yesterday. Water pipes need to be fixed up. Electricity needs to be fixed up. Are we counting the costs?
At the moment, we're only starting to count the cost. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. There's still areas that are inaccessible. So it'll be a while yet before we have total numbers. And there's going to be a division in numbers of who's responsible for what. So the infrastructure resides with different government departments. Some of the infrastructure resides with the municipality. So the total breakdown, we are still some ways away of getting that exact number.
I want to talk about these dams. You sent out a press release saying, and I quote, "The dams are located on a farm belonging to the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. The location of the dams falls within the jurisdiction of the city of Cape Town. Dams used for farming, not used in any way in municipality for water supply." What do you mean by that?
There seems to have been a lot of confusion within the community that these dams were retention dams or dams that were used at some point by the municipality to provide water, and this was never the case. These dams do not belong to the municipality. The way dams work is that they're the responsibility of the property owner. So that means that the safety regulations, etc., is the responsibility of the property owner. So there's been a lot of rumors and misinformation that these dams were neglected by the municipality, and this was never the case because it is not our property and it does not fall within the municipal jurisdiction.
So what are the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, who you say own it, what are they saying?
They are aware of the problem and they are giving their full cooperation to the investigation that's being headed by the Department of Water and Sanitation.
See, there are a lot of departments here. Will this not all just fall through the cracks as everybody just sits in meetings and starts pointing at each other?
No, not in this municipality. Swartland municipality is determined to make sure that all the parties are working together at all times. We've already set up various plans, and we're working very closely together with everyone, and we are very happy to say that all the departments have been coming to the table and working together to make sure that all the information is available and to give the cooperation as we move forward.
Let's talk about the opening of facilities in the area. I see the community clinic is opening today. The primary school will open tomorrow. Everything on track?
Yes, we're very happy to report that the Riverlands Clinic is opening again today. The Chatsworth Clinic that was located nearby was picking up all the patients from the Riverlands area until today, but the Riverlands community can go back and access their own clinic again from today. And yes, the school opening is still on track. Yesterday we dispatched some additional assistance to help clean out affected classrooms, but we are also working with all the other schools to make sure that the schools have sufficient water supply for sanitation and for cooking needs.
And being able to move people around, obviously. They're going to different schools, or are the kids just not going to school until it opened?
For the Riverlands kids, those kids in the affected primary school, they were not going to school, but they will be returning to school on tomorrow.
And communication with the residents, are they happy with the way things are being communicated to them? It's always the issue. You can supply water tanks, but if you don't know where they are, what's the point?
There has been frustrations, but we have been working actively to make a water plan available, and we released the first plan yesterday evening, and we are now actively communicating on our social media, and we also have a WhatsApp channel that is very effective, making sure that the information reaches the community. And we do understand that the community will be frustrated, and it is going to be a frustrating situation because it's unique. It's not something that we are normally confronted with, an outage of this nature. But we do ask that the community help us, be patient, and work with us. We are doing our utmost best, and their well-being is our priority.
Mark-Marie Haasbroek is the spokesperson for the Swartland municipality.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
Essential cover from OUTsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top story, Stats SA to release jobs data and Chilota's bail application set to continue. Good morning. Analysts say they expect a marginal reduction in the rate of unemployment when Statistics South Africa releases its jobs data for the second quarter today. The unemployment rate accelerated by 0.8% in the first quarter of this year to reach 32.9%, up from 32.1% in the fourth quarter of last year. Stats SA figures showed the number of unemployed persons increased by 330,000 to reach 8.2 million in the first quarter of 2024. Independent economist Elise Kruger says the suspension of rolling blackouts may have a positive impact on the expected employment figures.
I do expect to see a small tick down on the unemployment rate, given that we've had, I would say, a better economic environment in quarter two. We had load shedding reprieve for the whole of the quarter. We are seeing that the sectoral data coming out more positive for quarter two, and we expect a positive growth rate overall compared to a contraction in quarter one. On top of that, also election-related employment could have boosted the number in quarter two.
The state is today expected to respond to the bail application of the former personal assistant of the former Free State Premier Ace Magashule in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. 37-year-old Murwari Chilota made a first court appearance yesterday. In her affidavit, she declared that she was confident the state's case against her was weak. The state requested time to prepare to oppose Chilota's bail application. Chilota, along with Magashule and others, are facing charges of fraud, corruption and money laundering linked to the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal tender scandal. Political analyst Asanda Washing says it's important for the electorate to know who funds the political parties they plan to vote for. The issue is back in the spotlight, this as the Western Cape High Court reserved judgment in the matter between My Vote Counts, the Presidency, Parliament and the Home Affairs and Justice and Constitutional Development Departments. My Vote Counts lodged an urgent application against the parties due to the amendment of the Act. The litigation follows the signing of the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill into law. Under the Act, limits for independent and political party funding were removed ahead of the 2024 elections. Washing says proper legislation will help voters to make informed decisions.
We need to know this information so that we know what people are backing when they vote for political parties and where the power of these political parties come from. Because it's not that people just give money to political parties and then leave them be. More often than not, who funds is an indicator of who then has influence over the kind of policies that come from that political party.
Former Zimbabwean Minister Xavier Kasukwere has dismissed reports that he's among people that are interfering in the leadership succession in ZANU-PF. The former ZANU-PF member left the country when the military removed the late former President Robert Mugabe from power. Kasukwere says he views the allegations in serious light.
The management of the country, they are just not being able to achieve the legitimacy that they require. Hence, they have worked every other day to try and look for somebody to blame for their misfortunes. The party itself has never been unanimous or in agreement with the decision to remove Mugabe the way they did. Even after they took power, they have never been able to discharge their responsibilities in a democratic and justifiable manner. They continue to abuse the laws of the country.
Meanwhile, another former Zimbabwean minister, Dr. Walter Mzimbi, says it's not possible to influence the leadership succession in ZANU-PF while in exile.
If we are that strong to the extent where after 7 years we are still able to directly or indirectly discourse within ZANU-PF, then it means we have a local standby in the matters that relate to ZANU-PF as a party. We have been in exile for 7 years. How do we direct discourse inside ZANU-PF when we are not members inside this party? How does he name drop Kasukwere and Muzembe inside the succession debate in which we absolutely have no local standby?
Recapping the top story, analysts say they expect a marginal reduction in the rate of unemployment when Stats South Africa releases its jobs data for the second quarter today. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and R1 million liability cover, all covered by OUTsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Your own panel beater is like your loyal childhood friend. Been there through it all. You trust them. OUTsurance gets it. That's why OUTsurance Essential, your claim is paid out in cash to use your own panel beater. Also, get up to R1 million liability cover and other great benefits at a low cost. OUTsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years, valued under 125,000 Rand and not financed. SMS CAR to 43187 or call 08 600 60,000 today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy on the N14 going into Pretoria this morning. It's this truck that's crashed near Correctional Services on Kagosu Mampuru, but that is, of course, the extension of the N14 Ben Schoeman. So quite a heavy backlog. You might want to come off at Centurion and hit some alternative routes like Border Avenue, go up through Fountain Circle. By the time you sort of get north of those Centurion exits, you get into some very heavy traffic. Even Euphius Road coming off Roger Dyson, quite a heavy backlog into that N14 highway as well. Joburg side still dealing with a crash on the M1 North before Malabongwe Drive. Delays coming through from the Bayers Nordia side, and plenty of traffic on the Mike 1 this morning, all the way from Boyson's right through to Grayston Drive. Major delays if you're on your way between Ladysmith and Newcastle. Just north of Ladysmith has been a crash involving a truck carrying a load of alcohol and a state ambulance. So it is going to take a little while to recover this. There is some looting going on, obviously, at the alcohol truck that's involved in that, and motorists are parked all over over the road, preventing the EMS services from arriving at the scene. So major delays just north of Ladysmith this morning. Cape Town, the N2 inbound, a broken down vehicle still with us at Rapenburg Road, causing a delay from Langa, and still no lights. Jake Scoville and Four-Trekker Road, right in the heart of Goodwood. That's the N7 Four-Trekker Junction. Heavy pressure through the Goodwood and Epping areas. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, soccer, Orlando Pirates have set their sights on ending a 30-year CAF Champions League drought. And in cycling, Charlotte Kool claims victory in the first stage of the Women's Tour de France. We'll bring you details at around 8:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
It's 8 minutes past 8. You're with SAfm. I'm John Gericke. Good morning to you. Coming up in a moment, we're talking about electricity. 10 million households qualify for free basic electricity. Only 2 million are getting that benefit, but there's plenty to talk about with Vali Padiachi in a moment. Also, how can science and innovation change our lives? It's going to address numerous challenges, they say, including climate change, diseases, poverty, and malnutrition. Who are they? Well, this one in particular is Dr. Clarietta Chagwiza, who's a senior postdoctoral research fellow at Future Africa at the University of Pretoria. Look forward to that conversation. And towards the end of the program, we're going to find out about marketplaces like Takealot and Amazon that are dealing with significant problem of knockoffs and counterfeit products. Have you been affected by that? And also, in the last hour of the show, it's your opportunity to have your say as well. So you're welcome to give us a call, 086 000 2032, lots to talk about, and a voice note on 0614 104 107.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late on.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Big ups to all the women of Africa Tonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy
You are listening to John Gericke on SAfm.
Let's talk electricity for a while. The electricity minister held a press briefing yesterday. One of the things that came up there was that a majority of people who qualify for free basic electricity are not getting that electricity. Let's talk about that and other things with Vali Padiachi, power and energy expert and a former executive manager of Eskom, former senior executive of City Power Johannesburg. Vali, good morning to you. Why are people not being able to take advantage of this free electricity?
Good morning, John, to you and your listeners, and I'm glad to be back on your show. I think the people, let's call it the qualifying or the indigent people, would like to take advantage of it because free basic electricity was intended to alleviate poverty. So they would like to take advantage. Unfortunately, the system is failing them. And let me qualify that very quickly. Obviously, there's there's a pretty basic framework that the COCTA has come up with. National Treasury allocates the monies through the equitable share grant to each of the metros and munics, and they base that on stats from Stats SA for the free basic electricity portion to each munich. So each munich and metro gets the monies to allocate for free basic electricity, and at this moment it's 50 kilowatt hours. And according to the minister's stats yesterday, there are 10 million people that should be getting it. Only 2 million are getting it. That's 20%, and 8 million are not getting it. So, according to the minister, my understanding is that there's a bottleneck in the system. In other words, for you to qualify as an indigent, the different munics and metros are using different systems, albeit there's a framework, and the qualifying methodology is taking extremely long than expected. So to answer your question now, John, the people that should be getting it are seemingly not getting it because of bottlenecks in the system.
In the municipalities?
Yes, in the municipality,
right.
Yes.
While we're talking about electricity, we're told that Eskom is shutting down units. They're making too much power, yet at the same time the minister says load shedding has not yet gone away, and there's this balancing act. Explain that to me.
Well, that's my forte area, and I made the comment on another media outlet yesterday. Yes, I think it's common knowledge now that the Eskom team, the generation team, has performed well, and they've recovered sufficient capacity. In fact, they do have some reserve margin, so that in a nutshell, we will not get back to the levels of load shedding that we had in the last 2 or 3 years. But I think the Minister of Eskom is just concerned that there could be some minor inherent risk in the system. If you have a major breakdown, then we could have some bits of load shedding. Although I'm of the opinion, and the Minister said yesterday, that if we get 2,500 megawatts in August, I think we could safely get back and declare a no load shedding status. So that's on the load shedding side, which is a national imperative based on a supply constraint from generation. What the minister is alluding to, in my opinion, is load reduction. So that's not a supply issue, it's a distribution grid issue, vis-a-vis Eskom distribution and the Munich grid. Basically what they're doing is that with load reduction, because of illegal connections, etc., they want to reduce the load on the localized grid, distribution grid, so that they prevent inter alia damages to equipment, mainly transformers. So there's a distinction between load shedding, which I think we are safely no longer going to be in that rampant load shedding, but we're going to be facing tough errors in terms of localized power outages, John.
The load reduction. Okay, part of that is, I guess, this free electricity that you're talking about. If people are getting free electricity or should be getting free electricity, then they might not be making illegal connections. So that's one. And second of all, people not paying for electricity. Municipalities are owed billions. And then that, in effect, affects Eskom.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I also made the comment yesterday that underpinning all of those, there's some very significant and serious structural and operational deficiency in the system, and that needs to be addressed by government, not by Eskom and municipalities. Just to elaborate on that point you made, John, if I take City Power, and I spoke to the City Power guys, they say to me that there's about 10,000 people per month, 10,000 people per month that are migrating into the city center, and the city has about 6 million people, and that's because of poor economic conditions, job losses, poverty, the rapid load shedding that we had. And these people, unfortunately, are occupying accommodation in backyards of formalized housing. And so they eventually get to connecting illegally to the system. And so you have homes where there should be 5 people, and you end up with 15, 20, 30 people that's there. So you can imagine the load that gets exerted onto the grid. So the Munichs are also in a bit of a quandary where they are overloaded, hence they need to load reduce. And John, what's the challenge to this is that this is symptomatic of the whole country. So the whole country, in terms of metros and Munichs, at different levels, are sitting with this load reduction challenge. And I think the minister is taking it seriously, the Minister of Electricity and Energy. And it needs to be addressed, not yesterday, but the day before yesterday. Otherwise, the grid will collapse, Munichs will get bankrupt, ESCOM distribution will not collect revenue, etc. So it's as I say, I'm repeating, there's significant structural and operational deficiencies in the landscape, John.
All right, let's talk about pricing. The minister is saying as well he's going to look at how pricing of electricity is worked out. Increase, I couldn't believe this, 400% increase in power in the last 10 years, how much it costs. We have all these solar panels that were put up during load shedding. Is that being used efficiently? What's he going to be looking at?
Well, John, I go back, the pricing, and there we're talking about cost-reflective tariffs. The requirement from their side, etc., is that you have cost-effective tariffs. Now, I just alluded to the fact that we have structural deficiencies and operational deficiencies in the system, so that we don't have level playing field. The competition is not level, and the biggest victims of that are Metro, Munich, and ESCOM. Now, I made the point yesterday, and very quickly, that like the private sector, if ESCOM and the Munichs were allowed to charge cost-effective tariffs, and here I'm saying efficient and prudent cost-effective tariffs, not the inefficient ones, they will not be in the situation that they are in today, where to be bankrupt, fight for survival. Because over the years, John, the decade, as you probably know, every time a Munich or Metro put up a cost-effective tariff and application to NERSA, they were turned down. They were said it's too high for the end-use customer, which is a correct assessment from NERSA. They're doing the job. But unfortunately, the reduction in that tariff was lost. In other words, if they asked for a 30% increase and they got 10%, that 20% got lost in the system. And this was happening for decades. And hence, now they are virtually bankrupt. And therefore I say that's a structural deficiency that needs to be addressed, and also the user pay model. So, John, this is a very complex issue, and I'm glad that the minister is taking this sort of head-on. Otherwise, we'll have serious consequences, John.
Vali Padiachi, thank you very much. Power and energy expert, a former executive manager of ESCOM and a former senior executive of City Power Johannesburg.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
I say no, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own half? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Science of Life on SAfm.
Dr. Clarietta Chagwiza, a senior postdoctoral research fellow at the Future Africa at the University of Pretoria, wrote an interesting article called Making Science Work in an Inequitable Society. Making Science Work in an Inequitable Society. An unequal society is a word I would use, but she's a doctor and knows a little bit more about this, so let's talk to her. Doctor, thank you very much and good morning to you. The first part of this paper is just about the difficulties we're experiencing on the planet at the moment. So much inequality. There's financial issues. There's gender inequality. Talk us through that before we say how science is going to change all of that.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and good morning to your listeners.
Morning. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. In this piece, I was talking about the numerous challenges that the world is facing. That ranges from the climate change, the diseases, the recent COVID-19 that we just faced, as the whole world. And we talk of poverty, malnutrition, and I was of the opinion that, all these challenges, they provide a breeding ground to huge inequalities-related problems, such as unemployment, civil unrest. You know what is happening now say, for example, in Sudan and in other countries, Gaza, where there is civil unrest. I argue that these problems, they emanate from these inequality-related problems.
Income inequality, there's gender inequality as well. So at the end, how does science, or at least being taught in science, how is that going to change that?
Okay, so when we look at inequality, there are two broad categorizations. So we have the income inequality and there's gender inequality.
Right.
So for gender, we are speaking to the unequal access to economic opportunities between men and women. So now, even for the income inequality, we are speaking of the inequalities between countries. So, for example, South Africa and maybe Malawi, and inequality within the country. For example, South Africa has been ranked at 0.82. Using the Gini coefficient, South Africa is sitting at 0.82. That's the inequality within South Africa. So I'm arguing that through the use of science, we can be able to alleviate some of the challenges. So, for example, gender inequality. We have women doing a lot of things like unremunerable, duties within the household. So, some of the technologies and innovations can help alleviate gender inequality. Say, for example, having access to clean energy for women, having access to water provision for women can also help alleviate gender inequality, because they will have more time to be able to pursue other economic uplifting opportunities for themselves.
You also talk about education. I guess educating the girl child is very important. Also, kids in exclusive schools, rich schools, get this high tech. They get the labs and the technology and all the equipment, but obviously it's sorely lacking in other schools as well. How do we fix that?
Yeah, that goes again to the issue of the policies and also the interventions that the government and also the private sector, then they can also play that important role to be able to provide, some of these technologies to the rural areas. And also the champions in the science sector, they can also go to the rural areas to open eyes, to open opportunities for those small kids in the rural areas, so that they have a safe footing into the technological era.
A lot of the issues, science always seems so complicated. You need to know theorems and mathematics. How do you make it exciting for young kids to get involved?
That's where the youth comes in. We've got like the young girls. Like I was reading yesterday, like this young doctor, she became a doctor, I think, at the age of 21. So when you have like those young people, they resonate well. They can relate well with the youth. So if we have the youth playing that, championship role to promote science, that could help a lot.
You say that science is a key enabler and accelerator of transformative change. Is there the political will to help? This is all these things you've mentioned. Department of Education, there's technology that needs to come in. There needs to be broadband sent around the country and around the continent, I guess, as well. Is there political will to do all of this?
Now you just brought up something that's very interesting, because I was writing another article. It's an empirical paper where I was looking at the role that governance can play between the relationship between research and development expenditure and economic growth. So we realized that South Africa is actually is like top of the list of African countries who are putting like a bit more towards research and development. So as far as that is concerned, there is really like a lag towards spending towards research and development, with South Africa being ranked, the top, but still it's not meeting the Lagos Declaration that was agreed upon, that governments should spend at least 1% of their GDP towards research and development. So there is really not political will, and on top of that, we have like governance issues.
Yeah,
it's like we have the resources, we have the policies in place, but there is, lack of, governance structures to monitor how these monies are spent towards research and development.
You mentioned artificial intelligence in this article as well. Yeah, I would like to paint and write stories, but artificial intelligence is painting and writing stories, and here I am still doing my day-to-day slog. Is AI being used correctly at the moment?
Yeah, in some cases it is being used correctly, but now we have to be aware of the threats and risks that it poses. So we have to be ethical when it comes to AI as well. We have to be very careful, because there are implications, especially now that we're trying to, close the gap between the rich and the poor, because there are concerns that it can actually widen if not properly managed.
And what do your peers say about this article? Equality a distant dream? No, you say. Science can help you achieve it.
Yes, absolutely. For me, I feel science can help us to achieve equality, because, say, for example, like the girl child, it is through science, it is through like the innovation of people that they manage to, say, for example, come up with sanitary pads to make the girl child stay in school. So I feel with science we can do a lot. These technologies, we expose our children to these technologies. So I think with science we can do a lot, and the girl child can also have the opportunity, to be at school, to explore economic opportunities.
Dr. Clarietta Chagwiza, thank you very much. Senior Postdoctoral Research Fellow at Future Africa at the University of Pretoria, brings us to 8:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, 3 sibling learners from the Everton Primary School in Sebokeng, south of Johannesburg, have died from suspected poisoning. The Gauteng Education Department has confirmed they died yesterday after being taken to the sick bay at school. Analysts say they expect a marginal reduction in the rate of unemployment when Statistics South Africa releases its jobs data for the second quarter today. And scientists in Africa are later today expected to declare a public health emergency over the outbreak of Mpox. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAfm. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very slow out at Emalatleni this morning on the N4 eastbound. So you're driving from Pretoria, coming out of Gauteng, approaching Emalatleni, approaching the Walter Sisulu Road exit. A vehicle overturning and losing its load earlier this morning, and recovery of that still underway, and the traffic queue is quite heavy. Talking of heaviness, there's major delays just north of Ladysmith on the N11. This is the motorist driving Ladysmith through Newcastle. Just north of Ladysmith, an ambulance and a truck involved in a collision this morning. It's a very heavy mist. It's still misty. The truck carrying alcohol, that led to looting. It took forever for the authorities to get through. Motorists are just parking all over the place, helping themselves to the load. So I believe EMS have finally got through. Police on the scene as well. But there's some very heavy delays. If you've got to go Ladysmith, Newcastle, you might want to elect to travel a bit later today rather than sort of set off now into that backlog. Cape Town still with a breakdown on the N2 inbound at Rappenberg Road. So if you're driving in from the airport side, it all gets a bit heavy from Langa. And no traffic lights. Jake Skirvell Drive at 4 Trekker Road. So heavy traffic in that part of the Goodwood area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. That star on the Pirates logo is starting to fade. They want a second one.
Yeah, Pirates are looking to plunder. And they want glory, okay, to end a 30-year drought since their last CAF Champions League victory with a talented squad led by coach Jose Rivero, who is in the final year of his contract. The Buccaneers are eager to make their mark on the continent once again. After a solid start in the MTN8, Pirates are now focused on their Champions League campaign, kicking off with a preliminary round against CNAP Sports this Sunday. In the meantime, more soccer. Lautaro Martinez committed his future to Inter Milan after signing a new contract, which keeps him with the Serie A champions until 2029. Argentina striker Lautaro will earn a net salary of around 179 million rand per season after renewing a deal which was set to expire in 2 years' time. Inter President Giuseppe Marotta said that Lautaro had already agreed to sign his new contract, but that the club will wait until he returned from post-Copa America holidays to announce it. Lautaro was key to Argentina retaining the Copa America, netting 5 times, including the only goal in the final triumph over Colombia. Let's go to cycling, where the Dutch cyclist Charlotte Kool powered to victory in the first stage of the Women's Tour de France, taking the yellow jersey on home soil. The race, which kicked off with a 123-kilometer flat stage from Rotterdam to The Hague, ended in a thrilling sprint finish. Kool surged ahead in the final 100 meters to secure her maiden tour stage win, crossing the line at over 60 kilometers an hour. Lorena Webbs from SD Works Pro Time, the favorite going into the stage, suffered a mechanical issue in the last meters, which saw her unable to launch a sprint, eventually finishing 41st. Now, starting in Netherlands due to the Paris Olympics, the peloton will head through France to finish in the Alps. In the meanwhile, 5-time Olympic medalist Tom Daley announced his retirement from diving. The 30-year-old British driver competed at 5 games, making his debut at Beijing in 2008 and winning gold and bronze in Tokyo, silver in Paris, and bronzes at London 2012 and Rio 2016. Daley, who claimed his 5th Olympic medal in the 10-meter synchronized event in Paris last month, had this to say.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how everything's gone. I just think it's always hard when you say goodbye to your sport. So lots of things to process. But, I think it's the right time. Like, this year felt like such a bonus. And I got to compete in front of my family, my kids. And I got to be flag bearer, so.
And finally, horse racing. Hayley Turner led a team of female jockeys to Dubai duty-free Free Cup glory at Ascot, winning a nail-biting final race. The 1-2 of the last heat saw the ladies' team rise to the top of the leaderboard in a unique team-based competition where points are awarded for finishing positions in each race. Now, Turner was joined by an all-female team who overcame a team of jockeys from Great Britain, Ireland, Europe, and the rest of the world. The 2024 event saw female and male riders equally represented for the first time, with the rest of the world and ladies' team composed fully of female jockeys. And that's how we wrap up sport. We'll have more with John Gericke at around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
Darling Lechela, good morning to you for the last time this morning. Latest update on the business news. Chrome prices having an effect.
Now, local earnings season is heating up, and today we're looking at Merafe Resources, a ferrochrome and chrome ore miner. Now, these resources are used when manufacturing stainless steel, and as you mentioned in the first half, Merafe's profits tumbled to 720 million rand from just over a billion. Production of ferrochrome also took a knock, falling 17%. Now, the miner said that chrome ore prices were high, but ferrochrome prices remained strained, and cost increases continued to put pressure on margins. Despite the downbeat performance, though, the group still declared a dividend, giving shareholders a reason to smile. Looking ahead, though, things don't necessarily look good. Merafe warns that the latter part of 2024 is expected to be challenging due to declining prices of chrome ore and ferrochrome, which may lead to reduced profit margins. Despite this, the Glencore Merafe venture intends to maintain production at the majority of its smelters, with the exception of Lindenberg and Rustenburg, which remain non-operational.
All right, Chrome, I understand. Now, Renogen are selling helium. You're going to have to explain this one to me.
So, Renogen's helium project is successfully underway. The group announced that its helium production facility is now up and running. So, this enables the company to start with commercial sales of the gas. The project has been watched closely by investors as it positions Renogen as South Africa's only onshore integrated producer of LNG and liquefied helium. It owns exploration and production rights for about 187,000 hectares of LNG and helium. These fields are found in the Virginia gas plant in the Free State. Now, Renogen is in charge of that plant, which has been making liquid helium since about mid-July. At first, the helium was just used to keep the plant's equipment cool, right? Now, the plant has since been fine-tuned and is now working more efficiently, and investors seem to have liked the news. It seems like, Renogen is moving from exploration and is now into production and selling the helium as well as the gas. The news sent Renogen's share price higher, shot up 25% in yesterday's trade.
And what's happening in the markets otherwise?
Kicking things off on the local front, traders are in for a mixed start. Corporate action quite slow today, but we do have earnings from Home Choice and unemployment data being released later in the day. On the currency scene, the local unit still trading steadily stronger, sitting at 18.24 against the dollar. It'll be interesting to see whether it'll stay at these levels once the economic prints are released. Looking at your Asian markets now, Japanese stocks still leading the gains. The Nikkei is up over 3% at the moment, and over in the US, futures sitting comfortably in the green. Attention has shifted to macroeconomics as traders await inflation figures from the nation. Investors are also keeping a close eye on tensions in the Middle East, where we saw the Pentagon dispatching more forces to that region in anticipation of an Iranian attack on Israel. This pushed oil prices back above the $80 per barrel mark.
Darling Lechela, thank you very much. We chat again tomorrow, and there's regular business updates here on SAfm throughout the day.
If you're active on social media and love SAfM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAfM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAfM, leading the conversation.
Sakina, we are vindicated as the Patriotic Alliance because at local level, we have always said that the DA is very arrogant, is very rude, it wants to be the boss.
And this is very unsettling. If it's unsettling for us as politicians, it's also unsettling for the citizens. And you can actually feel the crispness in the air, Sakina, that the people are tense.
Deputy President Kenny Kunene, and we also have African Christian Democratic Party's spokesperson in Gauteng, Bishop Dalton Adams.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAfm. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Hi, John. It's Mongseni here from Durban. Listen, John. Load shedding and load reduction. Let me tell you, John, South Africans are not fooled. We are being fooled here. Here, this is a load shedding, but it is brought back to us in a different way to protect somebody or to protect, or stay away or running away from people having to criticize the government and criticize ESCOM. So we mustn't criticize ESCOM now because there's no more load shedding and there is load reduction. I'm tell you now, we are suffering the same way as load shedding. Thank you.
Morning, SAfm. I believe the more appropriate word is indeed equity or inequity when we're speaking about gender, pay gap, race. South Africans have been using inequality for quite a long time, but however our situation requires a more tuned approach to reconciliation and repair in this country, and equity denotes that the shortest person in the room gets 3 boxes to stand on the side of the stadium to see the game. Then the second shortest person gets 2 boxes, and then the tallest person gets no boxes, and everybody watches the game. A far better solution than equality, which is just giving everybody 3 boxes all the way around. Thank you very much. Yamkela, Cape Town.
John, I'm Tagata in Cape Town. We need a serious intervention on crime before the crime is becoming irreversible in South Africa. Really, I don't see no reason for Human Rights Commission and those NGOs who are complaining about the killing of criminals. Durban, yesterday it was the second highest. The government is losing money that's supposed to be distributed into the businesses and SASSA pensioners. Nobody is caring about it, but when 2 criminals die, everybody is shaken. They're complaining about the harsh police supposed to arrest and do that and that. Guys, we must be serious. We cannot compare the criminals with the innocent people and do better the criminals than the vulnerable innocent people.
Good morning, SAfm and all listeners. ESCOM should really check the electricity that is called Itamati. You take out 300 Rand or 240, you get 1,000 units. Where is it coming from? Thank you.
Some of the voice notes, and we'll take more voice notes later on in the show. You can give us a call as well. Let's go to the voice note number first, 0614 104 107. You can also give us a call, 086 000 2032.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
Online marketplaces, Takealot, Amazon, for example, are dealing with significant problem of knockoffs and counterfeit products being sold in their platforms as genuine. Let's find out what all of this and how they are doing it with Jan Vermeulen, editor of My Broadband. Jan, long time. Good chatting to you. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
How are we being conned on these marketplaces?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because I want to make clear from the beginning that this is not a case of Takealot trying to swindle people.
Right.
It's unscrupulous sellers on the platform that are using some of the features on the marketplace to try and pull the wool over people's eyes. So what these it's quite involved. So forgive me to just lay some groundwork. So how these online marketplaces work to avoid them, just being like a total mess of product listings is it lets sellers group products if they are exactly the same thing. They call these things parallel listings, right? So if one person is selling a box of Oreo cookies, for example, if somebody else that exact same box of Oreo cookies, then all 50 sellers who are stocking this item don't put up their listing. They'll all pile into the same listing, and then they list their separate prices. But then they fight for what's known as the buy box, and essentially the one with the cheapest price and the fastest delivery time wins the buy box. But now, what some of the more unscrupulous sellers do is they go, okay, you've got this branded item that you are bringing into South Africa. I am going to sell an off-brand or a knockoff or even an outright counterfeit and attach it to your legitimate listing as the official importer or supplier or creator of this item, and I'm going to undercut your price and win the box. And send the consumer at the end of the day this off-brand or knockoff or counterfeit product. Then that consumer comes into the review section of that listing and says, was not the item I ordered, leaves a 1-star negative review, hurting that whole listing. Sometimes these unscrupulous sellers win. The consumer doesn't send the item back. I mean, they wouldn't do it if it didn't work out for them. So that's essentially what's happening on these platforms. Is these sellers are providing items or selling items and hoping that consumers don't notice that they're not.
What are the responsibilities of the platforms then?
So on exactly the kind of infringement. So Takealot has that situation quite seriously, that it vets every seller that comes on its platform before they're allowed to sell, to ensure there's no history of fraud or anything like that, any red flags in the first place. But like when it comes to counterfeit goods, that's criminal. Takealot cannot allow counterfeit goods to be sold on its platform, and the second counterfeit goods, it sees counterfeit goods or it's alerted to counterfeit goods, it has to take steps. Those items have to be removed from the platform, and the seller has to be reported to the relevant authorities and definitely removed from the platform. So counterfeit goods, very serious thing. But like off-brands and knockoffs, the responsibility there is not as clear. Now, for Takealot, it's less about responsibility and more about impact, because what's going to happen is people are going to lose trust in the platform. They are going to associate Takealot with being like a Temu or Wish that sells garbage. And its reputation will slowly erode over time from becoming the go-to place to get stuff to, you're taking your life into your own hands by going to Takealot because they might sell you some off-brand garbage that's not been properly vetted. So there it's less about legal responsibility and more about business responsibility. They're undermining the credibility of the platform by not ensuring that the listings on Takealot are legitimate.
Jan, we've got to go to traffic. So quickly, what can I do as a consumer to make sure that I'm not caught out by this?
Yeah, so you're going to have to familiarize yourself with how these platforms deal with parallel listing. Then check when you have clicked through to an item that the seller that is selling that item is who you expect, if it's a particularly branded item or something like that. So it's essentially where you can see. So first you go and check, are there multiple listings for this item, and then try and vet the sellers yourself to make sure that you get the legitimate product and not some knockoff.
All right,
or worse yet, a counterfeit.
Jan Vermeulen, editor of My Broadband, thank you very much for raising that for us. We have reached out to Takealot. We have got no comment from Takealot yet. We will keep on trying to get Takealot and get their perspective of the story.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just an update on the Emeletheni situation. A vehicle losing its load, flipping over and losing its load all over the carriageway a little bit earlier this morning on the N4, just approaching the central Emeletheni area. So if you're out of Pretoria, direction Middelburg, as you come into Witbank area, there's quite a backlog of traffic to work through there. N1 south through Midrand, or towards Midrand at least, remains busy at this hour between the old Joburg Road and the point just south of Olifantsfontein Road. N1 south down to the Winnie Mandela off-ramp, queuing up the lights at that N1 Winnie Mandela Mandela interchange have been off for about 6 weeks without traffic lights there, and at peak time you always just get a bit of pressure on those ramps. Driving Ladysmith through Newcastle, probably a good idea to do it a bit later today. There's been a major truck and ambulance collision just south of the 602 Elon's Lukta exit. Very heavy mist and long backlogs of traffic both directions. Trucks and vehicles stuck forever there. So Ladysmith through Newcastle, do it a little bit later if you possibly can, rather than setting off into the midst of that now. And Cape Town, the Jake Scoville lights at 4 Trekker Road still down, causing major problems for motorists through the Goodwood area. There's also been a crash and the breakdown on the M2 inbound at Rapenburg Road. So between Jan Smuts and Rapenburg, you'll come across the crash and then you'll see the breakdown in the right lane. Just means the M2 inbound stays pretty heavily backed from as far back as Langa. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
SA Women's Struggles Journal. Hashtag Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development. SAfm celebrates the power, resilience and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month and we honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces and our homes. Join SAfm in recognizing the achievements, strengths and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAfm, leading the Women's Month conversation. SAfm has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk.
Team South Africa expected to arrive at OR Tambo from the Olympics, and there's a good gathering crowd. They've all got the South African flags flying, golden moments, and they got athletes on t-shirts and things making a noise. I'm just imagining what it must be like to be a German on another flight, German tourist arriving now. The welcome they must be getting from South Africans when they land at OR Tambo. They can tell their friends forever. Let's go to the calls. Daniel, you want to talk about online buying? Hi.
Yes, good day. Hi. Welcome to, good morning to you and to your viewers. I just wanted to add to the conversation that you're talking about with Takealot by saying that I'm a gas installer.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come across recently, quite often actually, is clients buying gas appliances. And these gas appliances, when they're brought into the country, they need to get SABS approved and be checked for safety standards and things like that. What's happening is people are buying these Chinese products and then wanting gas installers to install them, but they're illegal. So we can't ourselves officially allow these things to be installed. We can't give compliance certificates or, on the installations that we do because these things are not safe. That somehow they're circumventing the system that South Africa has with imports with regards to the safety of these appliances.
Where does that responsibility lie? On the importing at the ports already?
You see, it's something that's been raised within the industry itself. A lot of people have been talking about this exact thing. So Takealot, from my understanding, They basically say that they're just a platform that allows these people to sell. And what happens is these companies that sell these products are somehow not being vetted, and they are basically selling these products to clients directly.
Right.
And they are importing it themselves. So Takealot are, if I may speak on their behalf, I can't really because they need to officially comment for themselves. But they are just representing or having a platform for these people to sell these products on. And somehow these products are coming into the country, they're being sold to clients. Clients are then buying them, cutting the countertops, the marble countertops or wooden countertops to fit these things. And then when you arrive to do the installation, they're completely illegal and you can't do it. And now the whole size is all wrong, and there's all sorts of drama because of that, lack of really real understanding and protection, I suppose, to the client.
All right, Daniel, thank you very much for that. Yeah, like I said, we're going to try and take a lot on this, and we'll get their comments on from their perspective. What are their responsibilities to check the sellers and the products? Also, part of what we didn't have time with, Jan, what happens is if you're selling, you're selling a pen, right? So, a Bic pen, which we know, right? Bic pen's been around. What people do is they just copy and paste the pictures from legitimate sellers, and then they sell a non-Bic pen. They sell, a Kib pen, but they copy and pasted the Bic pen picture. So it's not like they're showing exactly what they're selling. And as Jan said, when it gets to your house, you think, might as well just keep it. But then you give a bad review as opposed to sending it back and making that seller hurt. Let us know what your experience has been like.
Good morning. About this rape cases and criminal. There's a country, I don't know where it is, somewhere maybe in South Arabia or those Arab countries. If you steal, they chop your hands off. If somebody rapes, they cut their private parts off. So I think South Africa, they should copy that thing. It should apply here in South Africa. You will see the crime and rape, they will go down, especially these people who are raping children. Thank you. Lulu Joelbeck.
Morning, John. My name is SAfm listeners. John, the increase of 8%, there's nothing wrong with it. And secondly, the comparison with private sector doesn't make sense. What we need to focus on is the cost of living to everyone. It means that private sector must come on board and pay comparable salaries. And the second thing, John, that's creating a problem with the skills in this country is the transfer of skills. Companies don't prepare in time to hire new people when others are going on pension. So it's creating that gap whereby we lack skills. And they would focus on employing youth while the youth has no experience, because experience goes with years of being in practice. So it's important to prepare in time to hire people before others are going on pension. That's my little contribution. Z from the Fontaine.
Good morning. About this rape cases and criminal.
Sorry, we played that one. Let's go to this one.
Good morning, SAfm and listeners. It's Lucy again. John, if you open an account in the clothing shop, if you haven't paid that month, they will phone after the 7th, the 8th. They will tell you haven't paid your account. But at Eskom, people are sitting with 1,000 units where they only pay 250. Where are they buying those units if they don't pay Eskom? It's simple as that. Thank you. It's Lucy.
We got time. Should we play the last one? Let's play the last one.
Morning, John. This is Magdalene from Blue. John and listeners, I just want clarity somewhere. Is this democracy for South Africans or for foreign nationals? Because I heard from another radio station whereby it is said foreign nationals are highly in need of health care. So they took everything from South Africa. They've got the economy of South Africa, the properties of South Africa, and included in SASA in the 350s. Now they want Miss South Africa. So actually, what is it, this democracy for? Is it for foreign nationals or for South Africans? Give me clarity. Magdalene from Bloom, thank you.
That's the show. Kathy's up next. It's 9 o'clock.
In our top stories, 3 siblings die from suspected poisoning and Mpox outbreak to be declared a public health emergency. Good morning. Three sibling learners from the Everton Primary School in Sebokeng, south of Johannesburg, have died from suspected poisoning. The Gauteng Education Department has confirmed they died yesterday after being taken to the sick bay at school. The grade 3, 4 and 5 learners had apparently eaten pap and biscuits and drank milk at home. They were taken to a nearby clinic where they were declared dead. The department also says 2 girl learners from the Tsakane Secondary School in Ekurhuleni ingested rat poison on the same day. One died and the other was taken to a local medical facility. The department spokesperson Steve Mabona says police are investigating both incidents.
MEC is really heartbroken by these incidences and conveyed his condolences to the school community and the family. Our psycho support team will be dispersed to attend to both schools, and our employee wellness will also be assisting just to look at the employee part of things, that is to support them accordingly.
The Kimberley Magistrates Court has transferred the case of a man who allegedly shot and killed his ex-wife last year in December to the Northern Cape High Court for trial. Albert Matthews allegedly killed 43-year-old Mandy Bailey at a home in the presence of a 9-year-old daughter. The accused is facing charges of murder, possession of a firearm and contravening a protection order. The National Prosecuting Authority spokesperson Mujalife Sinokwatsane.
The case of the Kimberley man accused of having shot and killed his former wife in front of her kids has been transferred to the High Court in Kimberley. The accused is expected to make his first appearance on the 2nd of October 2024 in the High Court sitting in Kimberley.
Analysts say they expect a marginal reduction in the rate of unemployment when Statistics South Africa releases its jobs data for the second quarter today. The unemployment rate accelerated by 0.8% in the first quarter of this year to reach 32.9%, up from 32.1% in the fourth quarter of last year. Stats SA figures showed the number of unemployed persons increased by 330,000 to reach 8.2 million in the first quarter of 2024. Independent economist Elise Kruger says the suspension of rolling blackouts may have a positive impact on the expected employment figures.
I do expect to see a small tick down on the unemployment rate, given that we've had, I would say, a better economic environment in quarter two. We had load shedding reprieve for the whole of the quarter. We are seeing that the sectoral data coming out more positive for quarter two, and we expect a positive growth rate overall compared to a contraction in quarter one. On top of that, also election-related employment could have boosted the number in quarter two.
Scientists in Africa are later today expected to declare a public health emergency over the outbreak of Mpox. Cases of the highly infectious disease have spread quickly this year. This after the disease first appeared in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The BBC's Sami Chola also reports.
Doctors have been alarmed by the speed at which the new strand of Mpox, known as Clade 1b, has spread. The infection jumps between people through close contact and causes lesions and flu-like symptoms, but can be fatal. Cases have surged in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with 27,000 since last year and more than 1,000 deaths. The disease has also spread to Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, and the Central African Republic.
And finally, scientists have discovered a reservoir of liquid water on Mars deep in the rocky outer crust of the planet. The findings come from new analysis of data from NASA's Mars Insight lander, which touched down on the planet back in 2018. The land carrier, a seismometer which recorded 4 years of vibrations, called Mars quakes from deep inside the red planet. Recapping the top story, 3 sibling learners from the Everton Primary School in Sebokeng, south of Johannesburg, have died from suspected poisoning. The Gauteng Education Department has confirmed they died yesterday after being taken to the sick bay at school. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187. Your own panel beater is like your loyal childhood friend. Been there through it all. You trust them. Outsurance gets it. That's why with Outsurance Essential, your claim is paid out in cash to use to your own panel beater. Also, get up to 1 million rand liability cover and other great benefits at a low cost. Outsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years, valued under 125,000 and not financed. SMS CAR to 43187 or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply online. Standard rates apply.
The Talking Point on SAfm. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
I myself am the product of two amazing women mentors, my maternal and paternal grands, both really strong women who grew up as part of a marginalized community that was forced to subsist on the banks of the Umgeni River in Riverside, Durban. Both my grands were functionally illiterate, but somehow they managed to ensure that their families of around 6 kids and a variety of extended people filtering in and out were managed. And they did this during really hard times and on very meager earnings. They ensured that every single one of their kids matriculated and that 80% of them went to university. They were the glue that held the family together, and they were the scaffold that the family used to elevate themselves to their respective careers and families. There's a really compelling case for empowering women in society. And as Madeleine Albright points out to us, women reinvest up to 90% of their income back into their families and their communities, when compared to men who reinvest only 30 to 40%. A recent study of Fortune 500 companies showed that those boards with the highest percentage of women on their board outperformed those with the lowest percentage by an average of 54%. And this was on measures like return on equity, return on sales, and return on capital. When you empower a woman with information, education, or even a loan, she can lift up her entire family and even impact her community. And it is this multiplier effect that an educated and empowered woman has that I believe can turn around our growing, pervasive, negative narrative in this country. I'm quite sure we've all heard this narrative. It goes a little bit like this. This country is just going down the tubes. There's absolutely no hope for us. Our government is useless. Our government is corrupt. Crime is just out of control. As a psychologist, I say to you that the more we tell ourselves the story, the more we believe it, and the more our actions and behaviors reinforce it. Ultimately, what this country, this continent, and this world is in dire need of is educated, ethical, and empowered women leaders that will transform our communities. We need to know and acknowledge again that you strike the woman, you strike the rock.
You strike the woman, you strike the rock. That's Mandy Pakiri, industrial psychologist, for our opening motivation as we get into the show today. Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you, wherever you may be. I'm Khomotso KG Mweketsi in for Kathy Mutlatlana today. It's time for the Talking Point. It's Tuesday, the 13th of August. We are SAfm leading the conversation. Our studio numbers, whenever you want to join the conversation, 086 000 2032 086 000 2032. The SMS line is 41391. That's 41391, though, coming to you at around 50. We are, excuse me, on the WhatsApp line 061 410-4107. We are on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. We are at SAfm Radio, and you can hashtag SAfm Talking Point if you want to talk to us. We open the lines for you on the program between now and 10 o'clock. It's time for, what do you call it, Lebo? I don't know what you call the open. Yeah, it is the National Roundtable. He calls it the National Roundtable. It's time for the National Roundtable between now and 10. After 10, Personal Finance Today is with Luthando Mzilikazi. Money misunderstandings is what we're talking. This morning, Brian is out, and we introduce you to Luthando Mzilikazi, who will be talking about some of the misunderstandings we may all have around the handling of our money, some of the things we may want clarity on regarding investments. She's going to be in the studio to talk to us on that matter between 11 and 11:45, dealing with burnout as we approach the end of the year. We are literally less than 4 months away from, are we? August, September, October, November. Yeah, we are. We are literally less than 4 months away, to the end of 2024. And so many of us are starting to complain about burnout, whether that's work life or in general. Yesterday, we played a motivation that asked our listeners about the quality of our questions and how this question can help us approach our understanding of our goals and how we can become unstuck. So that's what we're doing on the show today. So let's hear what is on your mind. I mean, I'd love to hear what is on your mind today. There's a lot of things we could talk about. When just before I went to bed yesterday, I saw that the SABC submitted its answering affidavit, because we're in court, and the SABC is in court with the MK party over the usage of the word or the words GNU, Government of National Unity, because the MK party does not want the SABC to use the words Government of National Unity, and that's in the High Court. I always ask myself, where do these politicians get all of this money to go to the High Court? Because it's never, ever, ever, ever cheap to go to court. But here we are. That's one of the things that are happening today that we could talk about, or we could talk about, Gauteng or Johannesburg. They're saying anytime now or in this particular week, Gwamanda might be out. At least those in the know. They want to, they're saying it's time for a change, and, they're touting an ANC mayor for the city of Johannesburg. ANC officials are apparently to decide on the future of a Joburg mayor. And there's the big story of the former PA of the